That's still the curling, division of curling, if you will, that's going on. USA gets 3 points in that fourth end to take a 5-4 lead, and they're looking good so far in the fifth end.
I've always said you need your fourth and your fifth end to be your strongest ends.
Yeah, we hear in college football all the time the middle eight, right?
Yeah.
That the fourth and fifth ends are the middle eight of mixed doubles Olympics curling. Okay. Specifically mixed doubles Olympics curling. When you get in other competitions, it's a little different. But mixed doubles Olympics curling, fourth and fifth are the big ones.
I'm glad you're filling us in.
Absolutely. By the way, I have an exciting update, a couple of updates from the airing of grievances on Friday.
Okay.
So our guy Alec, remember Alec? He called in about guys taking obnoxious business calls in the sauna.
Yes.
He reported back to us on Friday, and he said, I'm so bummed that OC is not, that I can't tell this to OC, but I'm like, it's okay. Just fill Bryce and Jordan in on the situation and give us the update. He did what you asked. He confronted the guy.
Yeah.
Same guy, earbuds in, taking an obnoxious business call. He said, hey, this is not the place for that. Can you take that outside? And he said, and he looked at him, lots of anger in his face, and said something like, are you serious? And Alex said, yeah. And the guy stared at him for a second, no words, got up and left. So,
hallelujah, hallelujah. Well done.
So that's the first one. The second one is for me personally.
Well done. Okay.
Mr. Piggyback guy texted an apology back during airing of grievances on Friday. He claimed that he'd never used the term circle back or piggyback before because he called himself a blue collar simpleton, and he just wanted to try out one of those terms, and he said I used it completely incorrectly. So grievance against me, James. I felt very vindicated. Now, of course, I updated Spence during crosstalk, and he still kept the bit going. But that's okay. I still feel very vindicated.
Incredible stuff.
There's a banner airing of grievances you missed.
Man, so we might be finding out that the show's just better off when I'm gone on the airing of grievances. I don't like that. Okay.
I mean, Alec would have called no matter what. And he wanted you there. So you should feel good about that at the very least. Like I started this with OC. I wanted to finish it with him, but it still landed great.
I'm proud that we have influenced a real life scenario for one of our listeners to the point where they now hopefully have business call free sauna sessions. I had a situation like that on the airplane back from Dubai yesterday. The lady next to me she's probably about my mom's age. I think didn't realize that her headphones were not connected to her phone. It was just doom scrolling. So you would get like some disjointed audio, right? Like piece of stand-up comedy on super loud for 12 seconds. And then obviously she scrolls again and somebody's home video for 12 seconds, scrolls again, animal attack for 12 seconds, whatever. And I had to be like, hey, I can hear that. I can hear that. We can all hear that. So, all right. I'm glad as long as you do it respectfully, firmly, but respectfully, it is almost always, with very rare exception, almost always the right thing to do to confront someone who's committing a social faux pas.
In your situation, I mean, that's a lot less threatening for the one in your shoes because she just probably didn't realize.
Yeah, it seemed like she just didn't know.
And so she's going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me turn that down. Well, Alec got the stink eye from this guy, but it was almost like a biblical rebuke where the guy just walks away.
Well, he knew he was in the wrong. So that's what he was. That's why he gave you the death stare, because nobody likes having it pointed out that they're in the wrong. But if he felt that he wasn't, he would have just been like, sorry, dude. and stayed there and done his thing. He knew he was in the wrong. All right, what
I'm
a great
about to
start.
make $1 billion, so
Yeah.
in your face.
What a great start to the show. Was it a great Super Bowl? 877-353-0700. 29-13. Seattle with an incredible defensive performance. Super Bowl MVP award goes to Kenneth Walker III. He had the highest total since Terrell Davis in a Super Bowl game, 27 carries, 135 yards, that's a nice round 5 yards per carry average. He did not score any touchdowns.
Although he had one called back. When he scored that touchdown, I was saying it, watching the game, I was telling my wife, it was just us watching the game. We didn't do I convinced her, hey, like we put the boy to bed in the middle of the game. Let's stay home. If people want to come over, they can. But it ended up just being us, which was great. And I was telling her, I think he's going to be MVP. He's the only thing on their offense that's been working, but he hasn't scored yet. And then boom, he gets that would-be touchdown run, but ends up getting called back. I'm like, okay, well that clinched it. But anyway, he got it anyway.
And honestly, that was a lack of imagination for me on the part of the determiners of Super Bowl MVP. The MVP, the voters messed this one up. The MVP of this Super Bowl was the Seahawks pass rush, was the Seahawks defense, was the Seahawks everything except offense. I mean, it was a really incredible defensive performance, which is what you expected. And I think it was Jason Garrett in the pregame who said, look, you just got to keep it on the fairway. If you're Sam Darnold in this offense, you just keep it on the fairway and they're going to win this game. And that's exactly what the Seattle offense did. And Kenneth Walker was a huge part of that, right? Controlling the offense, controlling the clock, controlling the possession. Sam Darnold, 19 of 38, 202 yards, and 1 touchdown. He was sacked a single time. Drake May, 27 of 43 for 295 yards, but he threw the 2 interceptions. He had a couple of touchdowns. He was sacked 6 times in the game.
One of those interceptions might as well have been a sack fumble. So it looked like he really had like 8 sacks. He got sacked 8 times. The guy caught it out of the air. I thought it was scoop and score, and then they showed the replay. I think the second angle they showed, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's pick 6.
It's a pick 6. Here's the thing. They need to start, if you're going to do the Super Bowl MVP, they need to do a Super Bowl LVP, least valuable, and that was the Patriots offensive line. I know it was a part of the reason why there was so much confidence that Seattle was going to win this game. It felt a little anticlimactic in the run-up because so many people were just like, yeah, I mean, this is the Seahawks game to lose. There are people out there, and I'm willing to hear if you want to make the case, Broncos fans. There's plenty of people out there saying that, like, man, Broncos would have been a better Super Bowl matchup for the Seattle Seahawks. We decided, I think collectively as a show, that the NFC Championship game was our de facto Super Bowl. That was whoever won that was going to go on to win it. And when you localize it, right, when you try to make this relevant to the life of a Utah sports fan, what Seattle just pulled off is something that Utah football fans have been hoping to see, wanting to see, waiting to see for a couple of decades now, with a program that is built on defensive excellence and offensive adequacy. Now, of course, you're getting this regime change. Morgan Scalley wants to be more cutting edge, wants to be more explosive offensively. But if you continue to butter your bread on the defensive side of the ball and you continue to bolster your front 4 specifically and your front 7 the way that the dark side defense performed in this game and the defense as a whole for Seattle performed in this game, Sam Darnold, one of these great redemption stories in the NFL, he's not really the story here. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm happy for Sam Darnold. I'm glad we have that talking point. I'm glad that there are plenty of people out there who get to look at his career trajectory and say, you know what? Don't give up. Never give up. Keep striving. The first team's not a right fit for you. Maybe the second team will. Okay, second team's not the right fit. Maybe it'll be the third team. Third team's not the right fit. Maybe it'll be the fourth team. And guess what? The fourth team was a great fit, but the fourth team didn't believe that, and the fourth team was like, all right, see you later. Okay, fine. The fifth team. Maybe the fifth team. Like, a lot of people lose confidence on attempt number 2 or 3. There are very few people with the mental wherewithal, with the self-belief, with the discipline in their preparation to continue on try number 4, 5, 6, whatever. And let's be honest, the world doesn't often afford try number 4, 5, or 6 before folks get written off. So everything sort of came together for Sam Darnold, but I have a lot of respect for what he's done. I have a lot of respect for the turnaround he's made in his career. But let's make no mistake, Sam Darnold, if you put him on the New England Patriots, Sam Darnold might not even be in the Super Bowl, and he's certainly not winning if he has to play against his own defense. This very much was Seattle's defense. And it pains me to say, you have to now, I think, I've been proposing that the San Francisco 49ers just go ahead and move that practice facility. Just move the practice field no matter what, just to put everyone's mind at ease. You know what? I just want Levi Stadium to be imploded now. The Seattle Seahawks, your division rival, just won a Super Bowl championship in your home stadium before you have won a championship since moving into that stadium. You have to just get rid. They were celebrating. That was Seahawks champagne in your home locker room. It's disgusting.
Blue and green confetti.
You got to implode
falling
it.
on your field.
You got to implode it.
Yeah.
Like, you got the money. All right, it's fine. You can still call it Levi's Stadium. Just put it somewhere else. Make it different. You can't. That's
Levi's Stadium in Oakland.
You know how
still be the San Francisco 49ers.
That would be the most backward poetic thing in the history of the NFL.
Do they call citizens, residents of Oakland, are they Oaklanders? Is that what they?
Yeah.
Oaklanders would hate it. They'd probably
honestly
riot, right?
They might be okay with it just because they've got every
team back.
Every team has been stripped away from them. They'd probably be like, fine, we'll take them.
You know what? You can be San Francisco still as long as they play here.
Yeah. Just please stop taking things away from us. So it was not as entertaining of a game as we are accustomed to. The commercials were not as good as we are accustomed to. It was a very blah Super Bowl Sunday.
There was that commercial about with the word meh all over it with your guy Christian McCaffrey, and he's got a beer belly. Like, that's what that encapsulated all of the commercials. Meh.
There was I think it was a Comcast commercial, the Jurassic Park one.
I actually liked that one.
That was a great commercial, but they put that commercial out like a week before the Super Bowl.
Oh, did they? I hadn't seen it.
Even though it was their Super Bowl commercial, they leaked it, thinking that was a bad idea. Why did you do that?
That was the first time I'd seen it, so I didn't know that. The guy that they had is playing the Comcast guy was a little bit of a goober, but that's the point of the commercial, I guess, is to be like intense Samuel L. Jackson, hold on to your butts, and all the intensity of that moment in the original Jurassic Park, and then have this like goober guy be like, yeah, let's plug this in, you're fine. But I was like,
in that commercial and in the Dunkin' Donuts commercial,
which I enjoyed that one too.
There's a disturbing element to the fact that you can now take your celebrities and youngify their faces.
Yeah.
You can use the AI or the whatever technology to scrub the age off people's faces, so it makes them look like at least a decent facsimile of their younger selves. I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's very odd to me. I was not a big fan of that particular thing.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily like the AI use of in both of those commercials, but those were probably the two best ones for me. Although Dan Patrick made a great point. Why wasn't Matt Damon playing Matt Damon's character from Good Will Hunting and Goodwill Duncan?
You get.
Like,
I have no idea.
Like, why did they have the other star of Good Will Hunting play the other guy? Other than that, I thought it was, and the AI, disturbing AI thing, it was fine.
Yeah, They also had maybe the most, the commercial that grabbed my attention the most, I'm ashamed to say, was the Coinbase commercial.
Yeah, the wife and I sang along to it. We loved the karaoke part of that. Except we didn't use the new words that they tried to put in for the marketing.
Well,
we just sang the right words.
Yeah, it was very odd. It was just a karaoke screen, and then you're like, okay, what's this going to be? And it went on. I thought, it went like 10, 15 seconds. I'm like, okay, now it's going to drop.
Right. That was weird.
And then it goes like another 10, 15 seconds. Okay, now it's going to drop.
Then they change the words, and you're like, where they say, we're so secure.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, still don't know what it is, but okay, that's the first indication that they're going to tell us soon.
Yeah, it was a blasé Super Bowl day. And then, of course, the whole halftime, for some people, fiasco was not a fiasco for me. I want to make it very, very clear.
I thought it was an entertaining show.
I could not care less about the Super Bowl halftime show. I want the game, and I like that the halftime show brings more people into it, makes your non-football fans a fan for a little while. And I will fully acknowledge Bad Bunny lost on me. I've never listened to Bad Bunny songs. I mean, accidentally or on purpose.
Part of that
not just because I don't speak Spanish.
That's a big part of why you and I might not listen, but it's still, not really my cup of tea either, even if it was in English.
But, like, cool choreography, you know what I mean? Anytime you get people complaining about a concert at a football game, you've lost the plot a little bit.
Yeah. It's a sideshow.
And the fact that every single thing in our sports world today has to be politicized aggressively made me that was a repellent for me in terms of even my interest in watching the halftime show, not because I have a problem with it being Bad Bunny or I have a problem with it being in Spanish. I have a problem with it being a political pick a fight point for everyone. That's not what this is supposed to be. It's not what it's about. I think that, using Kid Rock as your counterpoint to the #1 streaming artist in the world is hilariously dumb.
Well, they couldn't use Taylor Swift, so
I wanted it to be a more interesting Super Bowl Sunday, I guess.
Yeah, I did enjoy the halftime show though, even though I don't speak Spanish. I thought he put on a good show. So,
and look, the whole point of it.
Hold on, that's the point, right?
If there's anything such thing as bad publicity, this ain't it.
Yeah, because
what it is it's more than the game, more than the fact that the Seattle Seahawks won again, as relatively unlikely heroes if you go back to the expectations in the start of this NFL football season, more than all of the stuff about the Patriots being back again, the Belichick and Kraft omission from the Hall of Fame on the first ballot.
And their second ballot Hall of Fame dynasty.
The conversation around this is now overshadowing that game, and I don't think that's ideal for the NFL. I think if we got Roger Goodell and James, get him on the phone. I know you have his number. If we got Roger Goodell on the phone today, we're just like, hey, was that Super Bowl and the reaction to this Super Bowl, was it what the NFL needs, wants, et cetera? I think that he's probably like, well, no, because the game itself was far from the most compelling thing on the day. And if the game is lackluster and there's like some hilarious commercial that everyone now knows, oh, this is the Super Bowl commercial. This is a Super Bowl commercial. And by the way, the revenue for the Super Bowl is still going to be massive, even though the game was not great. It is a bulletproof league at this point. Like, nothing can take it down. Nothing can hurt it. It's too big to fail. And that was just one of those days where you're like, man, as far as the holiday goes, that was the American sports holiday that is the Super Bowl. That was the equivalent of getting like a pair of socks for Christmas kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Where you're just, you wake up on Christmas morning, you're so excited. Oh, this is going to be the greatest day of my life. Wool socks.
Wool socks.
Dang it.
Well, they got the Super Bowl logo on them. So.
And for me, 10 times worse because it's the Seahawks that won.
Yeah.
At my Niners home stadium.
Nightmare scenario for you.
I will say, I will take some positives away from this. Connor O'Toole, Super Bowl champion. He is one of the great stories of persistence on a much, much, much less famous scale than the Sam Darnold thing.
Relevant to us here locally, not yet relevant. I'll say not yet relevant to anyone outside of Utah quite yet.
Well, and let's be honest, probably never going to be hyper relevant.
I'm holding out hope that he's going to be like best pass rusher in the league someday,
okay.
And the story's going to be told.
I will not hold my breath for that. Rashid Shaheed, Weber State, great. Glad to see him get a ring. That's really, really cool.
Incredible playoff run for him. Didn't have a huge impact. Didn't really have an impact in the Super Bowl, but he really gained a lot of fans and a lot of national publicity for how he performed as a returner, especially in the playoffs.
I mean, he won the game against the Niners by himself.
Yeah,
and then they just
3 seconds in.
Then they just threw a bunch of icing on the cake after that. Actually, Darnold missed him long on a pass that would have been.
That's true.
Would have been like the biggest offensive play of the game if you had not slightly overthrown one of the fastest guys in the NFL. Come on, Darnold. It did beg this question when I saw, Rashid Shaheed win one. I saw Connor O'Toole, who now gets to lord that over all of his Utah friends, that maybe he didn't have quite as illustrious a career because of all the injuries in college as those guys had. He's now the guy with the Super Bowl ring when he comes back to the team reunions. 877-353-0700 at Real OC Sports. I put it out on Twitter yesterday. I'm going to reiterate it on the show today. 877-353-0700 on the text line. The Utah player that you most want to see win a Super Bowl before it's all said and done. For a long time, everyone's answer to this one was Eric Weddle, and he got one. And before that, most people's answer would have been Steve Smith, probably. And you could have picked like any of the most popular guys, any of the most beloved guys. Jordan Gross's name might have come out of certain people, right? The Utah football player, the former Utah football player that is now in the NFL plying his trade, that you most want to see win a Super Bowl ring. 877-353-0700 or at Real OC Sports. And the responses that I got yesterday, Garrett Bowles is way up there. And I think a big reason why he's up there for people right now is because it feels probable. It feels feasible. And
the amount of Broncos fans, too.
There's a ton of Broncos fans. And also, like, he's really made something of himself as a person, as a leader, as an example in the NFL in a way that it'd be nice to see him get that cherry on top, that crowning achievement. Look, Garrett Bowles is just fine, even if he never wins one. He has changed his family's future. He has made it so his kids are taken care of forever and ever. He has achieved all those goals that every dad has and every athlete has. He's been a pro for a long time. He's played himself out of the bust conversation a long time ago. He's Pro Bowler, all-pro type stuff. But once you've checked those boxes, we talked about this last week, the thing that you want is you want a Super Bowl. Garrett Bowles is kind of the primary answer I've gotten so far from a lot of people. Devin Lloyd is up there for some. Dalton Kincaid, Cole Bishop. That just sounds like it comes from a Bills fan.
Well, that's another one that has felt probable too, like even more probable than Garrett Bowles until this season. So you got to think that's part of that
By the way, I need, if you're listening out there, sir or ma'am, I was dropping my daughter off at preschool this morning. She goes to preschool at the University of Utah, okay? And as I'm driving back, I'm driving past the Huntsman Cancer Institute, and there's a Ford truck in front of me that has a custom paint job on the tailgate of the truck, all right? And I just need to know what this is all about, all right? It is a Bills. It is the back. You're looking at the back of Josh Allen. You think it's Josh Allen, right? It's like Josh Allen's jersey.
Is it 17?
On a figure. It says Allen.
Okay.
But then you're like, what is – that's not like hair and skin coming out of – what is that? It's blue fur coming out of the jersey. So it's like a blue Sasquatch or a blue Wookiee or something like that wearing a Josh Allen jersey. And then there's off to the right, it says elusive. Elusive.
I mean, he can be very elusive.
Full custom paint job on the back of your car. I mean, extremely well executed, airbrush detail. Maybe it's a decal. Who knows? But very, very high quality, well done. I'm like, that is an oddly specific sort of deal. And if you're out there listening, I need to know. Call in now, 877-353-0700. Explain for me, did I miss something? Is Josh Allen sometimes equated with being like a Yeti of some sort?
An elusive Yeti.
An elusive. I didn't get it at all. And this person gets it so much that they're like, I'm putting this on my car for people to see every single day.
Josh Yeti.
Odd. Very strange.
I have not heard that either. Call us, text us the story behind that, please.
Wow. All right. The Sean O'Connell Show brought to you today and every day by our good friends at Big Willie's. Look, if you needed something to kind of pull you out of the Super Bowl doldrums yesterday, Big Willie's had it for you. Big Willie's is the place. Excellent food, incredible menu of food, great activities, little giveaways and trivia questions and prizes for all the big events like yesterday's event, your place for the Olympics. We are watching right now Team USA in the seventh end leading Italy 7-5 on their way to a comeback here. If you go down to Big Willie's right now, that's going to be on the televisions for you also. Tell them OC sent you, 1717 South Main Street. They're bringing us the hot lunch and talking about the Red Wings game where they had our drawing winner. Ari Temkin's going to join us next. Callahan's going to join us at 1 o'clock. Tom Callahan, our Grizzlies insider. And, of course, we'll talk a lot of Olympic hockey because the Grizzlies are on their Olympic break, as is the rest of the NHL. What, did I say Grizzlies?
He was saying Grizzlies, yeah.
What the heck? Our Mammoth insider.
He had a bit of a rough travel weekend. You're still
where do the Grizzlies come from? A Mammoth insider, Tom Callahan. The Mammoth are on an NHL break because the Grizzlies are an NBA team. Ugh. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We welcome Ari Temkin to the show on a Super Bowl Monday, post-Super Bowl Monday. Big 12 today on TuneIn Radio, friend of the program. Ari Temkin, welcome. How are you?
I'm great, brother. How are you?
Doing okay. How was your Super Bowl Sunday? Give me a breakdown of how it went.
Pretty good. So I'm getting an opportunity now to do some hosting on the Westwood One Sports Network, which is a partnership between Cumulus and Odyssey. And so I was on Saturday night, which was great. And I mean, I was really, really laying into I think the Seahawks win big narrative. And normally I'd fade the public. 70% of public money came out on the Seahawks minus the points. So that tells you go New England, close, go New England plus the points. But it just felt like the NFC this year was far ahead of the AFC. Like I could probably give you 2, 3, 4, 5 teams in the NFC that I think would have beaten the Patriots. And, they even looked worse than I even expected them to look. Drake May looked really bad. And look, a lot of that does have to do with Seattle's defense. Seattle's defense just is that good. And I don't know, it feels like in some ways there's a takeaway here similar to college football in that, I know Mendoza's a Heisman Trophy winner and he was really good, so maybe it's not apples to apples, but just 1 through 53, Seahawks were really freaking good. They had no holes. And, you don't have to have this elite quarterback. You don't have to have, even in this case, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is an elite receiver, he was basically a note, didn't even matter. He was a non-factor in the game. And it didn't even matter because their defense was so dominant. And it wasn't just one individual performance on defense. It was a collective performance, whether it's DeMarcus Lawrence or, Inwani Rie. So I just think, I expected a blowout. We got a blowout. I didn't expect New England to look that bad, but yeah, Drake May looked that bad.
Is this, we talk about it in college football, what Indiana did, if Indiana can do it, why can't we do it? In the NFL, the Seahawks have won. They haven't won, I guess, all that recently, but they have won, and they've been a respectable franchise for a long time. And so they don't have that same kind of, well, if they can do it, anyone can. But I think the points you just made are well made, that they didn't win because they had the best player on the field, the best individual player on the field in any given scenario or any given position necessarily. It was not a star-driven performance, and the NFL very much is. The NBA is even more so. So is there anything informative for GMs and coaches and other franchises in how they got this done that might be copycatted?
Well, yeah, and it's sort of funny because, there was a point in time, OC, where offensive football was ahead of defensive football. And, that the elite offenses were going to be beating the elite defenses. But somewhere along the way within this last decade, defenses have caught up. And so while we still see programs at the collegiate level and at the NFL level that are still searching for the most brilliant offensive minds when it comes to hiring a coach, here's Mike McDonald. Hello, did you not see what I just did? Because I put together an elite defense without any, elite. There's elite players. Don't get me wrong. There's a bunch of elite players, but there's no Aaron Donald. There's just no individual player where you're like, that's an all-time great player. And so I think, a lot of times the trends, the reason they go one direction is because it's right now it's a market inefficiency. Going for offensive-minded coaches right now is a market efficiency. Going for a defensive-minded coach is more of a market inefficiency. So in bringing it full circle here, Michigan did something and you rarely see, which is they're hiring a new coach. They go and hire a defensive-minded coach in Kyle Whittingham. And, of course, we already knew that Utah was hiring a defensive-minded coach because they had their defensive coordinator as the head coach in waiting. So, I think that we definitely hit a stretch probably within the last decade where offenses were better than defenses. And elite offense were going to beat elite defense. And I think it's gone the other way now. I think it's 180 degrees. I think this is a good example of how elite defenses have caught up. And whether it was the 3-3-5 with John Haycock at Iowa State, the rush 3 drop 8, or just a combination of getting more versatile players Imanware for Seattle is a good example of that. As a rookie, probably should have been rookie of the year, but he's kind of your non-traditional safety who plays, he's not a box safety, he's not a coverage safety, he's more of a, hybrid linebacker, can also play in coverage. So I think, it shows that right now defenses are more multiple. They've got more versatile players. It confuses what offenses are doing, and there's a reason why right now we're seeing an elite defense be at the top of the food chain in the National Football League.
Ari Temkin is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things in sports. The coming off the Super Bowl, obviously, now means we turn the page with college football being done, NFL football being done. We turn the page, I guess, to draft preparation in that world, but college basketball gets this brief, 6, 8, 10-week period where they're kind of the best show in town until NHL and NBA playoffs start. And college basketball in the Big 12 has been very fascinating this year. We got a big matchup tonight, Arizona, Kansas, 1 versus 9. Let's start there as we get into some hoops. Arizona has been at the top of the rankings basically all year long, and they're undefeated, so obviously it's for good reason that they're number 1 in the country. Does Kansas have anything that can knock them off that pedestal?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, if Arizona doesn't go down tonight, they're going to go down soon. I just don't see a way in which Arizona hits this stretch unscathed. And, this kind of worked out perfectly for the Big 12. First of all, the Big Mondays have just been phenomenal, and not just tonight, but last Monday night, then a Monday night before that. And then moving forward, you see these matchups, it's like really good for the Big 12. And just the timing of it, where you had such a clunker last night with the game. And, do I think we're going to see a Super Bowl type audience? Of course not. But, when random Joe sports fan turns on the TV and sees like, oh, Arizona, Kansas are playing tonight. Those are two obviously household names of the sport. Like, I think this will do a really, really big number tonight. There's some crazy statistical historical context involved in this game. Like, so Kansas is 0-5 all time at Allen Fieldhouse against the AP number 1 overall team, but it hasn't happened since 2003. And the last time it happened was Arizona in 2003 came into Allen Fieldhouse and beat the Jayhawks as the number 1 team in the nation. Now, Kansas in 2003 ended up getting them back in the Elite Eight, I believe, of the NCAA tournament, and a tournament in which Kansas loses eventually to Syracuse. But that's interesting. I mean, they're 0-5 all time. Only once it's happened since '89, and that was in 2003, and it was Arizona. Kansas under Bill Self is 38-0 all time at home on Big Monday, so something's got to give there. And then, look, the Kansas under Bill Self in top 10 matchups, games featuring 2 top 10 teams. When Kansas is the lower team in that top 10 matchup, Bill Self is 13-2 all time at home in those games. So just some really interesting, mind-boggling stats associated with it. Look, Arizona and Kansas, I think, do play similar styles. They're both for top 10 teams in the country, not high-volume three-point shooting teams. They're both physical. I actually think Utah, who's probably the worst team in the Big 12 this year, they did a really good job at Allen Fieldhouse on Saturday in matching the physicality of Kansas for about 3/4 of that game up until the final stretch where Kansas really exerted itself. But Kansas is a physical team. I think the rebounding number in this game is crucial. Like, look at the box score after the game. Whoever leads in rebounding, if there's an overwhelming margin there, that team will definitely win. And even if it's like 2 or 3, I think, look at the rebounding team, look at the better rebounding team. That's probably the team that's going to win. But if it's even, that's going to come down to who executes better on offense. And Arizona just has so much depth. I think that's what people miss about them is they've got 2 really good point guards, and Bradley, who's experienced, and Burries, who's the true freshman, and they play inside out. They just make you work every possession. So this is going to be a really good heavyweight fight tonight at Allen Fieldhouse.
You mentioned at the very beginning of that, well, yeah, if Arizona doesn't go down tonight, it's going to be sometime soon. Is that just because something's got to break? Are you starting to see the wheels shake and rattle a bit on that Arizona squad?
No, it's more to do with who they're playing. This is when you look ahead to what they have. I mean, it's a really tough stretch. This is the toughest stretch. Like, when you look at what they've done so far in conference play, and I think a lot of this is by design, to where the Big 12 really wanted to put the majority of its best matchups sort of post Super Bowl in order to try to garner as much of an audience as they possibly can. So, I mean, it's not just Arizona. Iowa State, Kansas, all the top teams of the Big 12 right now are about to hit stretches where they're going to play really good teams. And like Kansas plays Arizona, still has to play Houston twice. They still have to play they have another really tough matchup. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But in terms of like the top, Arizona, Kansas, Iowa State, Texas Tech, BYU, and Houston, all those teams are going to be playing against each other a lot. And quite frankly, BYU is in the middle of it right now, and they're feeling it.
I wanted to get to that here in a second. Before we do, are you as high on Darren Peterson as everyone else is?
Yeah. Yeah, see, I am. I mean, it's been a weird experience, as both an analyst and as a KU alum to watch this happen because, I mean, they dressed this up under the guise of, as he's missing time in games and not playing maximum number of minutes and sitting in fourth, at the end of games, the second half of games where these games are in doubt. As you're watching this, you're like, man, he's sandbagging. Like he's taking rest. This is not, the cramping issue that they've talked about all year, or, it was this quad or it was a hamstring. Like it was just this malady of things over the course of the season. You're like, man, this dude got paid $3.5 million to come here and basically play as much as he wants, which is not as much as he needs to play for the team. And I mean, he played 34 minutes on Saturday. He's become his story of rest has become more of a footnote. And I think, you could look in hindsight and say like, well, we always expected it to be like this. Like he's going to play more at the end of the season so as to not take on so much wear and tear over the course of the beginning of the season. But we didn't know that was truly going to be the case. And it still remains to be seen if it will. Like, is he going to play 34, 35, 36 minutes tonight? Or are we going to see him sitting at the end because, of cramps or whatever else? So, I mean, I think if you sit that to the side for a moment, I mean, the dude is unbelievable. He's electric when he's on the floor. There's a reason why there's so much emotion tied to him playing because he makes Kansas a legitimate national championship contender, and without him, they're not. And so, I mean, he's so smooth on offense. He has a killer instinct that you just love to see in the game that reminds, and I think this is where the Kobe Bryant comps come from, which is obviously unfair to the kid, but like in Lubbock last Monday night, they're screaming expletives at him as he's at the foul line, calling him names, and he goes and hits a 3 to tie the game and a 3 to send the game, and a 3 to win the game. So he just has that killer instinct where like any slight motivational tactic he'll use, he's a silent killer. There just aren't many holes in his game. And look, I think Utah did a good job defensively on him. He played 34 minutes and scored 14 points. He's probably his worst offensive showing of the the season. He also seems to play up and play down in a way. Like, he in the biggest moments he's at his best, against the best teams he's at his best. When they played BYU and it was him, Debanza, like he shows up in a big way. And in some ways he probably felt like the sleepwalk that Kansas was doing with Utah.
All right, Temkin, for a couple more minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking some college hoop now. You mentioned BYU, and there's a couple things to get to with BYU, but the performance on the floor right now, this is maybe the most expensive roster west of the Mississippi, or one of. This is a very, very a team with a ton of expectations because they got the number one player out of high school, and A.J. Debanza, who's obviously a projected lottery pick, and they have a massive amount of talent in that starting lineup. There does not appear to be the depth that they thought they would get or hoped they would get out of some of the guys that are riding the bench right now. And it doesn't feel like this is a team that's going to hit another gear once we get to tournament time. But I wanted your assessment on what is going on with BYU.
Yeah, and kind of as a side note, it does sort of feel like the Jazz are really positioning themselves to get Debanza, and with kind of his history in the state, wouldn't that be interesting? So to your point, as a lottery pick, I could see him being the second overall pick to Utah, which is really weird because a lot of things have to happen for that to happen, and yet sometimes it feels like the NBA is that obvious.
Yeah,
so
kind of like Cooper Flag to the Mavs. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly,
yeah, exactly.
And like the dude who played prep ball at Utah, college ball at Utah, the Jazz are sitting guys the fourth quarter games or to get there. Like there's a little nudge, nudge, wink, wink thing going on there, which by the way, would be amazing, and I hope for it because we need the Jazz to be good again. But I digress. So look, a couple of things here. Number one, like, is this a speed bump on an otherwise, successful season? Yeah, to a degree. But is this, and I think the game against Houston tell you kind of big picture what this team's ceiling is? Yeah, I also think that's true too. Meaning, like, they're a finesse offensive basketball team. Like, they got off the bus, Kevin Young style is offense and finesse, and they get really good players, and Kevin Young is brilliant, and they're great at devising the right sets and offensive game plans. But Houston's the opposite. Houston is we're going to defend you and play physically for 40 minutes. Like, they get off the bus and they're physical with you. And this game was tied at 54 with under 10 to play, and it was as if Houston was like, okay, it's time, and they just out-physicaled them. And, like, we've seen this before. They don't have enough of Keba Keitas on their team. They need more of those guys. They need more rim protectors, shot blockers, rebounders, guys that are willing to mix it up a little bit. Houston has a team of them, and even has five-star freshmen doing that, and BYU does not. And they can win a game or two in the tournament playing the style they play with. I don't think they can win a national championship or probably even get to a Final Four unless they have a little bit more of that Houston in them. And that's, again, I think it's just so obvious in watching these games, that, like, they're going to be out physical. Like, they're going to get out physical by the physical teams in this conference, and this is a physical conference that has physical teams. By the way, you're going to see that in the tournament eventually, even if it isn't right away. So I think after the season, Kevin Young has to take a long, hard look in the mirror and say, we need more physical players. We need more Keba Keitas on this team because we're going to keep losing these types of games to these types of physical teams because we don't have the physicality to match.
Another headline about BYU is, of course, related to offensive chants coming from opposing fans. And the Big 12 is going to fine, I think the number was 50,000 for Oklahoma State. Now, this is it's very much a Utah thing. I don't know how much of the nation cares, but it's a big deal here. Is the Big 12 doing enough to deter? $50,000 doesn't feel like more than a slap on the wrist.
It's a great question, OC. I mean, it's really disheartening, from my vantage point, because number one, like, how is that acceptable? How could we allow any religion to be thrown at the end of that expletive? But then, like, I mean, we're getting, like, the obvious humanity piece for a second. Like, BYU as a fan base, like, they band together and raised money for Big 12 schools for no reason other than, like, just being good people doing good things. I mean, there was a story during the season before BYU and Texas Tech played football where the Texas Tech team barber, his wife got into a really bad car accident and, was on life support basically, and they needed money to help. And here come BYU fans, like a group of them, to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for Texas Tech employee, basically. So, like, they didn't have to do that. And by the way, we know that that's not the first time that something like that's been done before. So it's like, man, like, we should not allow that to be said about anybody in any capacity with that vitriol in terms of a specific religion or a specific group of people. But then also, like, these are also great people who have raised money for our universities and for our schools and for our people at these schools for no reason other than, like, to be good people. So I just wish that would resonate more with fans, especially student sections, as you go to these games. It's a good question, OC, on whether or not the league is doing enough. It feels like the league is doing something, which, like, maybe we shouldn't award them for doing some action, but it feels like something's better than nothing, and I feel like historically that's been the case. But we'll see. I mean, I think, if it doesn't change, and I know BYU fans hear this and they're like, yeah, we've heard this for years, right? It's like the old, like, there's a fine or a public reprimand, and then, they apologize, say the same thing. It doesn't reflect our values, yada, yada, yada. Like, I know BYU fans have heard this before. So you kind of feel like if this just keeps happening, then you do probably have to go a little bit deeper and figure out how to stop it from happening. I mean, I think it's not their own possibility to say, like, if you're in the student section, you've got to have extra security over there. And if something like this does start, if a chant like that does start, you start kicking people out and taking away their ability to come back to games. Because it's really disheartening to continue to hear it in the Big 12, and especially given, again, all the BYU and BYU fans have done for other teams within the Big 12.
Well said. We'll leave it at that. Appreciate your time and your expertise as always. Enjoy the week. Enjoy tonight. I'll say go Jayhawks. There's no reason not to on these airwaves. So on behalf of Ari, I'll say it.
Appreciate you, OC. Take care, brother. Be well. Enjoy the game tonight.
Great stuff from Ari Temkin, as always. Hot Lunch is coming next, a real hot lunch. The folks from Big Willie's are here. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, I'm a little late. That's okay. It's all right. We're watching Olympics. Hey, USA curling with the comeback. We're going to have plenty of Olympic updates throughout the show today. But time for the hot lunch, brought to you by our friends over at Big Willie's. Patrick and Michelle are here once again. They have brought me what looks like a delicious lunch. Patrick, tell me what's in front of me right now.
So today we have bacon cheeseburger sliders on a delicious buttery brioche bun and a side of jalapeno poppers. Made in-house, bacon, cream cheese, cheddar, fresh jalapenos. It's like Russian roulette. Some are hot, some are mild. You just never know what you're going to get.
You never know.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Which is kind of half the fun with jalapeno poppers.
It is.
Are you going to be sweating and coughing, or are you just going to
enjoy
that bad boy? Well, you're going to enjoy it either way. Man, these things, I got to hold it up for the camera. These things look incredible.
You can even fat kit it out and put them on your burger and eat it all at one time.
Sounds like something
I do sometimes.
Sounds like something I might do.
No judge zone.
Speaking of fat kid, Patrick and Michelle know me so well. There are no fries in this meal, but they brought me some fry sauce anyway because they know that's how I roll.
Fry sauce is good on burgers.
Fry sauce
Chicken
is good
sandwiches.
Fry sauce is good on everything.
Yeah.
All right. Put it on your cereal if you want to. It's delicious.
Yes.
How was the big game at Big Willie's yesterday?
Oh man, it was a good vibe, good crowd. I mean, it was 60 degrees. We had the patio going. The patio was full. It was awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's always a great time over at Big Willie's, and this week you got trivia this week.
Trivia and
bingo.
Bingo.
Tuesday night bingo, Wednesday night trivia.
Yep.
Okay. So 1717 South Main for anyone who wants to get down there.
Jackpot's $2,000.
Hello.
Free to play.
Free to play. Let's go.
Yeah.
If you got nothing, by the way, Valentine's Day is coming up, people. So if you are like me and you haven't made the right kind of plans, just be like, hey, we're going over to Big Willie's. We're going to have some fun. We're going to get some drinks. We're going to get some food.
Yeah.
We're going to watch your favorite team, sweetheart. It's a great idea.
We actually have a Valentine sip and shop event on the 12th.
Okay.
Where local vendors will be coming in. You can pick out your cards. You can get a gift. One-stop shop. Have some food.
Wait, so you are solving the problem for
Yes.
people like me who don't put in the time and don't do it the right way?
Yeah, if you don't want to go to the mall, you can just come to Big Willie's and sip and shop. And
That's such a better way to do it.
get your companion whatever they need.
Watch your Olympics and your hockey and your whatever else on the big screens there. And, yeah. Oh, I forgot. Valentine's Day is coming. Of course I thought about this carefully, sweetheart. I didn't just show up at Big Willie's and have this good fortune fall into my lap that I was able to obtain these things for you. We also have, I have the hopper here. All right. People, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm spinning things around. We're giving away a couple of Patrick and Michelle's very own Utah Mammoth tickets, club level tickets, 8th row. This is going to be for a February 27th game against the Minnesota Wild, or as Michelle says, the Minnesota Wild Devils.
Two teams morphed into one.
That's actually, and all of you, if you're a Mammoth fan and you really want these, you know this. That's a great game. These are two excellent teams right now. The Wild have a better record. They are, unfortunately, one of those three teams in the Mammoth's own division that are maybe the three best teams in NHL hockey right now behind the Colorado Avalanche. But, all right, I'm opening the thing here. I'm opening it up. I'm going to draw out a name. And there will be whoever's name I read, 2 tickets for you to attend Mammoth Wild at the Delta Center. Club level tickets, 8th row. Oh, look at this. Sean O'Connell is no, just kidding.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Jeff Lawrence. Jeff, you win 2 tickets. How did you hear about us? From the Sean O'Connell Show. Beautiful.
Perfect. And
well done.
We'll be in touch with the logistics of the tickets.
All right. They'll figure it out. The phone number's on there. So, once again, the generosity of Big Willie's, Patrick and Michelle, handing out not just a couple of Mammoth tickets, 2 of their own club-level tickets. So you get to hang out with them at the game. And
It'll be fun.
I would recommend, even though you're going for the club level and there's the free food there, I would recommend that you pregame it a little bit at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main, on your way down. Thanks for bringing me food.
Yeah, you're welcome. Enjoy.
I always share.
Give 'em one slider.
Maybe. It's a maybe. James, it's a firm maybe on whether or not you're going to get any of these sliders. The funny thing is I try to share with James when you bring food, and sometimes it's like, like a pasta or something. I'm like, I'm not sharing. It's too difficult to share this. This is the most easily shareable meal, but it also looks so good.
I mean, that's good YouTube TV. Just a couple of bears sharing a bowl of spaghetti.
Could get weird.
Our viewers have loved that in the past.
Yes.
We definitely did that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for being part of the show, as always.
Nice.
Don't forget, Big Willie's, they've got something lined up for you all week, all right? They have bingo, $2,000 jackpot, free to play. They've got trivia on Wednesday night. And the 12th is on Thursday? On Thursday night, the Sip and Shop. So if you have been procrastinating, you've been putting it off for too long, no problem. They've got you hooked up. Go down there, watch the sports on the TVs, grab a couple of beverages, grab some sliders, grab some jalapeno poppers, and get something for your significant other. Sean O'Connell Show is brought to you today and every day by Big Willie's. And today, the hot lunch as well. Plenty left to get to, including one of the greatest potential Olympic stories ends in tragedy. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show on a Monday. 877-353-0700. Give me your favorite Olympic moment so far. I could tell you my least favorite, and I think a lot of people are going to share this sentiment. Really, really unfortunate, tragic, in fact. Lindsey Vonn, who was one of the inspirational stories of winter sports in these last couple of years, battling her way back from multiple injuries, multiple surgeries to be once again a world-class, world championship level competitor, ends up tearing her ACL, 10 days ago now? Right before the games are going to start. And a lot of us, myself included, we're talking about like, oh, well, that's really unfortunate. That's too bad. It's a big bummer that she's not going to be able to compete in what will surely be her final Olympics, because when you're in your early 40s and you have to wait another 4 years before you compete again, it doesn't bode well for sustainability and, we'll get them next time sort of mentality. And so I was ready to say, oh, what a great career. She doesn't get to ride off into the sunset necessarily, but wish her all the best. And then we get the news that Lindsey Vonn's going to give it a go. Despite the torn ACL on her left knee, she's going to give it a go. Unfortunately, that dream, that inspirational Disney movie story came to a literal crashing halt 13 seconds in to a run that led to a broken leg. And I've never been a huge fan of the fact that you get the delayed Olympic broadcast, the primetime kind of highlights. I've never been a big fan of that until this was the best version of that. This was the best outcome possible with that, because she's screaming in pain, and the cloud of powdery snow goes away. You can see that she's laying there very awkwardly on the slope, waiting for people to come tend to her, and suffering and disappointed and all that stuff. And the primetime replay spared pretty much all of us that, right? If you were watching the stream and if you were able to catch the fullness of the replay, then you saw, like, that's the hard thing to watch in the sports world. And I've told you this many times, I've never been squeamish about watching injuries happen. So it's not even the fact that, like, oh, dang, look at that leg's bent at an awkward angle, or, oh, man, the thing's flopping around, hanging on by a thread. It's not that. It's the fact that you've got this person who have put all the eggs into this basket for probably most of their adult life and has battled back to a place where they're now, for one last time, on one leg, going to give it a go. And unfortunately, 13 seconds in, it ends in tragedy. And the pain, the physical pain and the emotional pain and the dejection of it is a hard thing to watch if you're actually seeing it unedited. And maybe that's why some people like sports, right? The unvarnished truth of sport. That was a hard one. That was a rough one. So obviously all the best to Lindsey Vonn. And thankfully she's so marketable. She's going to be doing television. She's obviously got a ton of, like, sponsorship deals and stuff. This is not something that is going to make her insolvent in life necessarily, and it's going to be hard for her to get by. It just means that we've probably seen the end of her career, and it came to an end that none of us wanted it to be. And here's the other takeaway for me from this. The sacrifice made in things like what we call non-revenue sports and in Olympic sports, the sacrifice made for a thankless profession. Ultimately, it is your profession, right? And the idea that you have to just prepare, train, push for 3 years in anonymity, 3.5 years in anonymity, 3.9 years in anonymity before everyone actually tunes in and cares and jumps on your bandwagon requires a different level of stick-to-itiveness and I think a different level of passion for the sport. I mean, we could talk to any athlete we wanted to, professional, high level, and they're going to tell you, I love my sport more than most people love their sport. I love my sport so much. I love my sport. It is my life. I make all these sacrifices. I'm away from my friends. I'm away from my family while other people are out clubbing and doing their thing when they were 21 years old. I was in the gym, whatever, shooting baskets or lifting or running sprints or whatever. I can tell you this because I felt that way when I was fighting. Like, no, I'm doing things that other people aren't willing to do. And to some extent, that is true. But I was doing it in a sport that was, I mean, look, it's not the NBA and it's not pro football. It's not the most popular thing. But as far as what my athletic abilities were going to allow me to achieve, it was as notable of a sport and as like front facing as somebody like me was going to be able to get. The idea that you're going to commit, I don't know, 4 years to bobsledding so that you can have a 2-week period where people might learn your name means that you care about that sport probably a lot more than the average NFL player cares about his sport. Because your trade-off is a lot more significant with less reward. Maybe not more significant, equally significant, but with less obvious reward to it. Certainly less financial reward. If the currency of attention and notoriety and whatever else, even like recognized success, mean things to you, as I think they do to every athlete, it's just wild. And we're going to watch Olympic hockey, and we're going to talk Olympic hockey with Tom Callahan, and we're going to love it, and I don't want to take anything away from that. Olympic hockey players, most of them are professionals either in the NHL or around the world when they're not playing for their Olympic teams, right? So there is a reward process for their efforts on a dang near daily basis. Andy Phillips is going to join us probably sometime this week. We're going to get some Olympians on as they filter back from Milan Cortina. We'll do our best to grab some medalists like we did with the Summer Olympics. But I am blown away by the idea that I'm watching ice dancing right now, that these people put in hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon days of training, and there's a nutritional element to it. There's a fitness away from the ice element to it. Also, that maybe for this 2-week period in a random February every 4 years, you can achieve a little bit of fame, maybe a medal on a podium, maybe a thank you from the president of your country, an invitation to your equivalent of the White House, whatever. Only for most of them, to get a check that says thank you and we'll see you again in 4 years. That is a passion that I think it's hard for most of us to relate to, at least from an athletic standpoint. If you're someone out there who's just like, no, man, I play piano every day because I love piano, maybe you understand this better than I do. Or maybe you empathize with this in a way that I can't. I guess I'm a little ashamed, only a little, but a little ashamed to say that, like, if I had to do it for 4 years without anyone caring that I did it, I'm not sure I would have been involved in sports and put as much time and effort into sports. I mean, football became a thing for me because my career didn't work out the way I wanted it to, where it really only mattered to me. I was not going to be running, scoring touchdowns on TV like I thought I would be someday. And so it was just proving that point to myself. But that was like the culmination of a normal career, a normal trajectory for a young person's career. These folks, there's no normalcy to what they do. Because of that, we might have to acknowledge that Olympic athletes, and pick your sport. You don't have to love all the sports, but Olympians might be the most dedicated, passionate athletes on the planet. And the famous people whose jerseys you wear and posters are on your wall are probably not quite as dedicated to their thing as these people are to theirs, which is a strange thing to say because my whole show is talking about those other people most of the time, not this. It's wild.
And when it comes to certain events, you're talking about a couple of minutes at the most.
Well,
you train all, and you perform and you compete in other preliminary events leading in the lead up to the Olympics to qualify for the Olympics for a couple of minutes of a performance, and then judges, if you do well, the judges reward you. If not, see you in 4 years, or maybe you're old enough where that's the only shot you get at it, or the last shot you get at doing that. It's quite the difference between Olympic sports and the sports, like you said, the football and basketball that we talk about all the time. Hockey now, that basketball and hockey are Olympic sports, but like you said, particularly the men's hockey and basketball, they've got the NBA championship, they've got the Stanley Cup, which is a bigger deal than an Olympic gold medal to chase every year. This ice dancing we're watching right now on USA, this is it. This is the Stanley Cup. This is the NBA championship. They only can do it every 4 years.
And you bring up an important point, and part of what brought me here is the fact that, for Lindsey Vonn had to be dialed in for 90 seconds, right? 13 seconds into that thing, hits the gate too close. It looked like her arm went through the gate, changed her trajectory. She lands awkwardly, and it ends her career potentially. A mistake 13 seconds in to a 90-second run. Is it easier to be doing that than having to be dialed in and on for an entire 60-minute football game or for an entire 90-minute whatever, like soccer game? I don't know, because I've always thought that the less time you have to perform, your margin for error shrinks down so aggressively in that world. Like, I missed PBR because it was here this weekend. Bull riders have 8 seconds, right? I'll tell you something. You can have 8 bad seconds in a football game, and the worst thing that happens is someone scores a touchdown on you. All right? Now you have another 60 minutes still to make up for all that. You got teammates. Even if you screw up in those 8 seconds, maybe your teammate bails you out, right? That 8 seconds, when you boil it down, that's insane to have to be performing at that level, even if it's only for 8 seconds, but your margin for error gone. In the Olympics, even the bull riders, right? You screw up for that 8 seconds, Cade Madsen, sorry, you got bucked off. Hopefully you didn't get hurt. We'll see you next weekend in Boise, Idaho. These people have to wait 4 years. They've got 1 minute. These ice dancing routines are probably, 2.5 minutes long? It's like the length of a song. You have to be at or near perfect during that time. In the Summer Olympics, your floor routine, your gymnastics, your vaults. A vault takes 4 seconds?
Yeah, vault is like the quickest, maybe the quickest event in all of the Olympics. Yeah.
And you get a couple of them. If those 8 seconds for an Olympic gymnast are not dang near perfect, that might be it. Now, I tried to make this point with people in the MMA world, in the combat sports world, right? Like, you can have NBA basketball is obviously incredibly challenging, and you have to be a freak alien to even compete at that level, whatever, and you have to have put in a massive amount of work to get to that level in the first place. But you can have, if you're playing for the Utah Jazz right now, you could have like a couple hours consecutively of bad basketball, and your career's not over. In the world of combat sports, if you have 30 bad seconds, that might be enough to end your career. I mean, you have 15 seconds in one fight that goes terrible. You get knocked out. You lose that one. You get 5 seconds going terribly in the next fight. You lose that fight because of those bad 5 seconds. Then the next fight, you have another bad 10 seconds, and now you've lost 3 in a row, and now your career could be over because you've lost 3 in a row. At least your career at the highest level could be over, right? Your margin for error is absent, is gone. But even in that world, all right, well, I'll go back down the ladder. I'll fight next month. I'll fight in 6 months. I'll fight in 5 months. 4 years. These people that we just finished watching Ice Dance, right? If you fall twice in your routine, you're not on the podium, and 4 years from now, you can hopefully make up for it. That is a dedication and a focus and a passion for sport that even someone as passionate about sport and passionate about their sports as I feel like I am, I have a hard time relating to it. If you told me, hey, I know you just lost the fight. 4 years from now, I'm going to give you a chance. You can even fight that same person again. 4 years from now, you can fight that same person again and try to redeem yourself. Do you want to stay training every day for the rest of those 4 years? I think my answer probably would be no. No, I need to move on with my life. I need to do something more productive. I need to do something that makes sense for me.
That was the French pair that just
Yes.
went in the ice dance.
Laurence Fournier-Baudry and Guillaume Cizeron, of course. Most people know they've only been together for 1 year, so if they can make anything happen.
No, I probably would be the same, OC. I'd probably be like, you know what? I gave it a good shot. That the idea of having to do that all over again, I don't want to do that.
Like, if I go to Lauri Markkanen today and I say, Lauri, if you lose this game, you're out. And 4 years from now, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do it again at this level, at the NBA level. But until then, you're going to have to go play basketball in Finland with, like, your church ball team. Now, that's unfair because there's some leagues, there's some
professionally in Finland.
You can go play professionally in Finland, but you got to 4 years. You got to put 4 years in, and then I'll let you come back, and you can play against the Dallas Mavericks again. All right, you're going to stay dialed in? He'll be like, wait, do I get my NBA salary? Absolutely not. Of course not. You will get 1/100th of that salary, so it's just enough to make you feel like it might be worth it, but definitely not enough to keep your family ahead, to keep your spouse ahead, to keep your parent. Like, it's not what it is right now.
Yeah, there are no guaranteed salaries in this universe we just made up on the spot. All right,
like,
unless you stay in the NBA, then it's guaranteed. Fine.
But I'm not. That's not an option for you. I'm not letting
if you
stay
play
in the
well
NBA.
enough to stay in the NBA.
Well,
yeah.
guess what? Even if you win the championship,
That's true. You just 4 more years.
If you win the championship, all right, you take down the Larry O'Brien trophy, I'm taking it away from you. I'm taking the opportunity away from you for 4 more years, and you can come back and try and win it in 4 years.
You can be the defending champion in 4 years.
Wait, okay, so I got the trophy, though, so that means I get to keep my salary. No, you don't. Now, you have a bunch of endorsement deals, so things are a little bit better for you. But
sure, they pay fine in Finland, don't they, Lowry?
But to compete at this precise level, this exact level, you have 4 years. Like, hey, Drake May, I'm going to give you the runners-up trophy. Here's your silver medal. I'll see you in 4 years. Are these guys doing it at the level? Are they going to continue to do it, or do we get turnover in a way that makes these leagues unrecognizable?
Probably, and you got to think about we see players age out all the time, or competitors age out all the time in the Olympics, where it's like, oh my gosh, 2 straight Olympics, they were the star guy, but it's 4 years in between, so they're like 45 now. So you're not going to get them. You're not going to get them in another Olympics. So yeah,
can you imagine if you're Usain Bolt and you're the fastest man on the planet for like 20 years? How annoying it is that you only get 4 medals out of it. They're just like, dude, sorry, we don't have the Olympics every year. You'd be like, but I'm the fastest man on the planet every year. Not every 4 years, every year.
Every year I am still as fast.
Like, well, we'll see you in 4 years and you could prove it again. It's wild, man. And that's why
Michael
we love
Phelps, he has an incredible amount of medals already, and there's a lot of swimming events.
Yes.
So you get 4 or 5, you had 8 in 1 year, right? But Michael Phelps is like, I can't win like 5 medals every year. Are you kidding me? Like, I have to wait 4 years. I had to wait 4 years.
It's such an incredible sacrifice. And we're talking about, by the way, just for the people that are at the top. The folks that aren't winning medals at all, the folks that are just like, you're there, you get your participation trophy, you get to represent your country. That makes sense to do one time for me. Like, I will put in 1 Olympic cycle worth of, if I get to go represent Team USA and I just get to call myself an Olympian, I'll be on your rugby team, I'll go box, I'll wrestle, I'll do whatever. I'll put in the 3 years of training necessary. But if I'm not medaling, if there's no carrot, if there's no pot of gold medals at the end of the tunnel, see, am I mixing in metaphors here?
Yeah.
I'm just like, all right, man, that was cool. See you later.
What if you get 4th by just like a fraction of whatever the time or the points or whatever? And you'd definitely be like, I have to do it again. Let's go.
Dude, I would be like, nope, that's all I got.
Really?
There's no chance. I'm trading it for another 4 years in this thankless Olympic wrestling to me is the most insane thing in the world, because the best ones, the best dudes, they're like some of the baddest men on the planet. Like, they are savages, right? Even in the best case scenario. Name any gold medal winner in wrestling, James.
Who's the
You can't.
Is it Dan Gable? Is that his name? The Iowa?
No, not the old ones.
Not like now.
The guys who won in the last Olympics.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
Can you imagine?
Ben Kerr?
Anyway, it's wild. All right, Daily Dump is coming next. Sean O'Connell Show, lots to get to, including some more Olympic stuff. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, welcome to the Daily Dump. Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Air now. The truck with the duck will handle your plumbing and drain cleaning needs and anything in the HVAC world as well. It's once again unseasonably warm in Salt Lake City, although a little rain today at least. But
thank goodness for the water.
Yep. James, that's right. You're a dad now.
Just thank goodness for that water.
Yep, you're a dad now. You walk outside, you look out. Oh man, we need the water. Good, thank goodness we need it. Alex Jensen coaches shows tonight at 6. Slackwater in your home of the Utes. Look, Alex Jensen he's doing the yeoman's work right now. I'm very much looking forward to the time when we're celebrating a lot of Utah wins and this Utah men's basketball team looks more like the vision of what he's got for the program. Rebuilds are no joke. Coach's show at 6. This is amazing. I love anytime you get access. The Utah Mammoth have announced first open to the public practice February 21st.
So that's a Saturday.
They're going to host a bunch of other community programs, opportunities, opening celebration activities that weekend. And so Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
There's the press release is pretty expansive on this, OC. They're going to have you're going to have chances to play your like league hockey games there. So like recreational type league hockey games, club type things. It doesn't say youth. It says league games, practices. Like if you're just a weekend, it sounds like if you're a weekend warrior playing on one of these competitive recreation or higher level club teams, you just love hockey, you're around our age or older, whatever. You can begin to play your games at the Mammoth Ice Center, I think is what they call it now, the practice facility, Utah Mammoth Ice Center.
That's dope.
Which is pretty cool. Obviously, there's going to be some kind of I'm sure there's going to be some kind of sign-up process to get that done. But there's things like that, and these opening celebration activities is just like the kickoff party for that. It's going to go on in perpetuity after the weekend of the 22nd. So that's pretty sweet.
If you're the person who plays in that beer league pickup hockey type situation, and you're 23 years old, 25 years old, and you're just like, I swear I was good enough to play in the NHL. I just picked up the sport too late or whatever. You know what? I believe in you. Go play in one of these games. Maybe Coach Bear, Bill Armstrong, maybe Kells is back from the Olympics. He's rubbing some bleary-eyed sleep out of his eyes. He's just saying, huh? Who is that? That could be you. Maybe there's a James Peterson out there who's just never had his athletic potential all the way unlocked, and you're going to make a Mammoth squad eventually.
Absolutely.
Let's go, baby!
And at first, I'll take their. They're going to have ice skating lessons. They have skating lessons. I'll take one of those classes first, and then I will dominate at the Ice Center in front of all the power brokers, Bill Armstrong and company at the Utah Mammoth front office, and then I'm going to get myself an NHL contract.
I love it. All right. Team USA Switzerland, by the way, women's hockey being played right now if you're wanting to watch the Olympics. One shot on goal already for Team USA, 21 seconds into this thing. Puck just dropped, and already your U.S. women are attacking.
Shout out to Hillary Knight, the star of Team USA from not too far from here, up in Idaho.
Are we claiming Idahoans?
Yeah, why not?
All right.
We're in northern Utah. We're not down in St. George. We're right there.
I don't know if the Idaho people are going to allow that. I don't think
she's from the region, all right?
Breezy Johnson, by the way, you saw Breezy Johnson in the same race that Lindsey Vonn broke her leg. Breezy Johnson won gold.
Yeah,
and
she did.
Became the first American to win gold at these games, and she happens to be a Salt Lake City resident. So maybe we'll get Breezy Johnson on the air when she comes back from Cortina d'Ampezzo. That's
D'Ampezzo.
That's what they keep calling it on TV.
Yeah, I watched. I didn't see it live early in the morning here, but I did watch the prime time at in Milan, at Milan or whatever, primetime in Milan, NBC coverage, and they started out with the announcer was like, they call it the Queen of the Dolomites, Cortina, Italy, Cortina d'Ampezzo. So I'm like, Queen of the Dolomites is what I'm going to call it
All
from
right.
now on.
I like that. Okay, now this begs a question for me. Mike Tirico is one of my favorite guys in all of sports broadcasting. His versatility, his polish, his professionalism, just something to aspire to. Absolutely love the guy. But is NBC, are we getting a little bit greedy that Mike Tirico was not only calling the Super Bowl, but then hosted Olympic Primetime Live from the field at Levi? You can't give like some understudy broadcaster the opportunity to actually do it. You're going to make Mike Tirico immediately after calling a Super Bowl and wrapping up the closing ceremonies of the Super Bowl, so to speak. He's standing on the grass at Levi Stadium going through highlights from the day of the Olympics.
He ends Super Bowl post game with the beginning of primetime in Milan.
He tossed to himself.
It was amazing.
Which we know that he's capable of this, all right? My thing is like, all right, we know Mike can do this. We know he's the best in the business. He's flying to Italy today. So he's going to be doing Olympics primetime from Italy instead of from Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California. You're telling me that there's not like one person on the crew that's already in Italy that you could have just been like, all right, on the first Sunday of the games, we're going to have you do it because Mike Tirico is going to be calling the Super Bowl.
Pretty busy. Here's my thought is, my first reaction is, well, it's not. NBC Sports has become very powerful in the last year. They've become even more powerful because they've had the NBA. They hadn't had that for a long time, right? But they still don't have the vast network of broadcasters that like ESPN always has, that Fox Sports has had. So that's probably a reason why and because Mike wants to continue to do that.
Yeah.
But that might be why. But also, as I was about to say that, well, you were finishing your thought, I was about to just be like, that's probably the reason why. They've got one Noah Eagle that they could have flown out to Italy, who has nothing to do with the Super Bowl coverage. That they could have been like, hey man, you're awesome. We need someone at the caliber of Mike Tirico. We believe you are that. You're a rising star, but we believe you're there already to host our Olympics coverage. Well, until Mike can get out there,
like
that could have been something
I'm sorry, but I just don't think that anybody needs to do the Super Bowl, the granddad. Like it is, the Super Bowl is exactly that. It is the Super Bowl of broadcasting. If you're allowed to be on
the queen of NBC sports coverage, if you will,
it is the crowning achievement of being a sports broadcaster in America, at least. And then the Olympics are a very close second to be associated with that at all. And they're just like, you're going to do both. It's like, what? No, let somebody else take one turn. Not even replace him for the games. Just one turn at it.
Yeah, well, just you take the opening weekend because Mike's gonna be busy. He's busy in Santa Clara getting ready for the big game, and then he calls the big game.
I get it.
He'll be there Monday.
NBC wanted to bring out the big guns, and like they wanted it to be perfect. Wild programming decision to be like, Mike, okay, here you're gonna throw it to yourself, and then you're gonna be on the field where they're gonna be tearing down the podium behind you. There's going to be like a bunch of random workers just like disassembling the podium, and you're going to be going through Olympic highlights for Olympic primetime. Oh, and by the way, make sure you have the exact correct tone and tenor to reporting on Lindsey Vonn in a tragic leg break that probably ends her career. Make sure you do that. It's wild, man.
Minutes after you signed off, so amped and excited for the football audience. Yeah,
it's wild.
I also the other thought that was going through my mind as I'm watching Olympics coverage, Olympics replay is really what it was. After the game is that, like, Mike, that wasn't all Mike did. He didn't just, I thought, okay, well, he's just introducing it, and then they're gonna show us all the clips. Maybe they have someone else go through the rest of it, someone who's in Italy. Nope. He had to have watched enough of the coverage in the early morning of the day he's calling the Super Bowl and then record his narration that he has to do for the rest of that broadcast, too. Like, what a day. What time that took for Mike Tirico on the same day he was calling the Super Bowl.
Good for you, Mike.
Yeah, shout out to Mike Tirico.
But also, leave some for the rest of us. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay. Lindsay Zarniak's on the crew. Just let her do it.
Terry Gannon, someone who's out there. Yeah. By the way, do you want to know what my favorite moment of the broadcast was? Super Bowl broadcast. Drake May throws that terrible interception, just right to. I can't remember the defender off the top of my head, but right to the Seahawks defender, right? And he was. The rush wasn't even to him yet. He just decides to throw it right to him 30 yards down the field. And then the replay gets shown, and Chris Collinsworth goes, I got nothing for you.
Thanks, Chris.
That's how bad it was. That's how bad that throw was by Drake May. That's how much the Seahawks pass rush was in his head, by the way. Because he had time to make the throw he needs to make. And instead, he rushed it, and Chris Collinsworth goes, I don't have anything for you. That was bad.
1-0 Team USA. Just scored. 13:56 left in the opening period. Putting a lot of pressure on early here. Switzerland, you can't be neutral this time, all right? Team USA's coming for your neck.
A lot of holes in that defense. Switzerland. Swiss.
Back to something semi-serious. I actually really like this story quite a bit. James, I'm sure you saw this developing over the weekend. North Dakota State, longtime FCS power, North Dakota State, climbing the ladder, and they're paying $12 million to play in the Mountain West Conference. They are joining the Mountain West Conference as a football-only member this season.
The Bison.
That's right. Now, I'm fascinated to see this because I think that much like with the University of Utah moving up into the Pac-12 and BYU getting the Big 12 invite, and we have plenty of examples of this now. There's this upward mobility possible, rare but possible, in college football. There's usually growing pains associated with it. It usually takes a little bit of time. I think North Dakota State might be, in a weird way, a little immune to that.
They might be ready to compete and win, you think?
And I'll tell you why, because the rest of the Mountain West Conference is now losing its best players to Division I schools, which has been happening to North Dakota State. So they've had a longer runway on learning how to deal with it. And also, because they are the only show in town, the fan support for North Dakota State is actually better than the fan support for pretty much every other school in the Mountain West Conference now. I mean, I guess you have to give Boise its proper due. And Utah State, when they're good, fans obviously show up at Maverick Stadium. But North Dakota State, you've seen this, right? Because they've produced some NFL quarterbacks and some big-time NFL talents. Like, they are the biggest show in town in North Dakota. That is the team. And with that comes resources. With that comes a certain place in the recruiting landscape of your own home state and of the upper Midwest that gives you an advantage that other teams don't have. If Weber State was trying to join the Mountain West Conference, right? I'd be like, oh, man, it's going to take them like 10 years before they can win games for real. 5 years before they can win games for real, unless there's a strange infusion of cash from somewhere. But North Dakota State is like not blinking at paying exit fees and entrance fees, $12 million that other schools in their world, right, would just be like, there's no way. No, we can't. What? No, we can't do that. North Dakota State is like a weird outlier here, and they're a powerhouse. This is one of the best programs, most consistent programs in college football on any level. Will they have the horses to compete? Probably yes. Will they have the fan support to continue to try and keep up? Well, not with Power 4 teams, but with Mountain West Conference teams? Like Utah State, I was told, was paying 2 players last year. 2. And that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but I think what it was a true statement about was that they were paying meaningful money, like big-time money, to 2 players. Bryson Barnes was getting money to be the starting quarterback, like every quarterback in college football does now. And I was told Ike Larson, because they didn't want him to go anywhere else, got a little bit of love. And then the well runs dry because you're a Mountain West Conference team and you are in Logan instead of being in LA or whatever, right? North Dakota State can compete on that level of NIL, not with what Utah's doing and things like that. But this is a fascinating development in college football. And the idea that North Dakota State even wants this right now is just as interesting to me, because you can be the biggest fish in the small pond, or one of the biggest fish in the small pond, or you can look at yourself and say, you know what? We can be a big fish in an even bigger pond here. And our pond is drying up so aggressively that we got to get out of it now, at least for as far as football goes. The Mountain West Conference is as respected as any non-Power 4 league is. So it's the right one to jump on with, even if geographically there's, you know, maybe ones that could make more sense for you.
Yeah, maybe the American would have been less travel for them, but the American's also way more all over the place geographically than Mountain West is. So maybe that was attractive to them. It's like, yeah, we're the farthest, we have to travel the most, but at least we're staying in the similar area if we join the Mountain West.
I don't know. This is going to be really interesting because I could see it. I really could see it. Most teams, when they're moving up, they're climbing up the ladder, I'm just like, all right, give them 5 years before you really start to judge. I'm not going to give them that much time.
Could we? Yeah, the Mountain West, and if they're able to pull this off, if they're able to have, you know, huge success like they've had at the FCS level, obviously that's not, they're not going to win national championships like they did at the FCS level. But where they're winning conference championships, as long as the group of 5 has access to the playoff, they're making the college football playoff. That kind of big time success. Boise State might finally have a long-term year in and year out rival in the Mountain West. Which I say that with all due respect to the Aggies and San Diego State and UNLV recently, who have shown themselves to be, you know, in certain years, have shown themselves to be able to compete with the likes of Boise State, but it's not year in and year out. There are gaps of time when it's Boise State still winning the Mountain West, and there's no, these other teams are not competing. North Dakota State could be that team that's like, hey Boise, we're here.
Yeah, I mean,
every year we're here.
And so here's where it could go really bad for North Dakota State, right? Because they get a lot of these like Minnesota kids, these Dakota State kids. They get kids out of Montana and Wyoming that are just overlooked. They're not being recruited because they play small high school football. They're not. A lot of the times they're from families that aren't going to pay for you to be part of the like recruiting services and things like that. You're not going to get a ton of notoriety. they have, like Utah has done for years and years and years, North Dakota State has developed, and they found these diamonds in the rough, and they've turned them into really good football players. And they've done it with mostly for Power 4 football, undersized offensive linemen, but they've done it with like these big corn-fed dudes that are still like 295. They're not 335, but they're these big guys, right? The only way that I could see this being bad for North Dakota State is that relative anonymity for some of the players is harder to maintain. It's already getting hard to maintain, but it's harder to maintain if you're playing on televisions in California because you're a Mountain West Conference school now, right? And even though that's like the 10th of 10 games that are on that day that people are actually paying attention to, there's going to be coaches and there's going to be boosters and there's going to be people out there and just be like, hey, this kid with the weird Polish last name that I can't pronounce that plays left tackle for North Dakota State, man, we need him.
Yeah, they're going to lose a lot more players than they're accustomed to. And we have to correct ourselves a little bit. Pac-12, the new Pac-12 is coming into effect next season, so they won't be a rival to Boise State in the Mountain West.
Oh, that's right.
But they'll be a cross-conference group of 5 rival. How about
that? Oh, my
that?
gosh, I'm a complete moron. I totally forgot about the
so
Utah State as well.
So it's UNLV's remaining. All the schools that don't have state in their name
yes.
are remaining from the current Mountain West, and Gonzaga's joining as basketball only, so that doesn't affect North Dakota State as football only. But yeah, so it's UNLV's probably the biggest program, at least biggest brand left after the state schools leave for the new Pac-12.
They just signed a new 6-year media deal with CBS, Fox, and the CW. So how that works out, we'll figure it out. We'll find a way. Air Force, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico, San Jose State, UNLV, Wyoming, UTEP, NIU, and North Dakota State.
Okay, so what I said about the geography being a lot more close to each other, yeah, that doesn't apply either. You got Illinois and Hawaii in there.
Well, Illinois is close to North Dakota.
Illinois is close to North Dakota, but a lot more spread out than it was before the new Pac-12 went and took half the schools.
Hey, my apologies to everyone we know still that works in that Pac-12 office. Totally forgot you guys exist. That's my bad.
Well, I mean, they haven't had a real conference. They've had to wait 3 or 4 years.
It's been a 2-team conference for the last few seasons.
They really will get back into being a proper conference next season. So.
I hope they produce a playoff team in the Pac-12. So maybe sooner than later, North Dakota State envisions themselves as part of the Pac-12.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Boise State, Utah State, let's get in the playoff. And then Gonzaga is going to be basketball only for the Pac-12, so you know they're going to have a national championship contender every year in basketball.
All right, that's the Daily Dump brought to you by our friends over at Valley Plumbing. Look for the truck with the duck for all your plumbing, drain cleaning, and HVAC needs. We'll double up here. We'll talk a little hockey. USA up 1-0 in the Winter Olympics on Switzerland right now in the women's hockey situation. We'll talk some more Olympic hockey with Tom Callahan. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome to hour number 3 of the Sean O'Connell Show. Going to talk a little hockey here with Tom Callahan momentarily. Utah Mammoth insider who, like the rest of us, is going to have to turn his hockey focus to Milano Cortina for some Olympic hockey. Right now, U.S. women's team is in action against Switzerland. 1-0 is the current score. United States on top. The men's ice hockey tournament preliminaries start on Wednesday. First game will be Slovakia versus Finland. Obviously, Utah Mammoth have some interest in that Finnish team. Sweden versus Italy, Switzerland versus France, Czechia versus Canada, Germany, Denmark, and Latvia, United States. That will be on Thursday. That is the first game. That's going to be 1:10 p.m. Mountain Time as Team USA takes on Latvia. And, of course, a lot of the interest here for fans locally is the fact that Clayton Keller is getting the Olympic nod. He gets to be on this men's Olympic hockey team, competing internationally for Team USA for the first time since the World Championships, where he captained. And he was not on Team USA for the Four Nations last year. A lot of people talked about how that might be a little bit of an injustice. Well, hopefully gets corrected with this Olympic cycle. Latvia, your first opponent for Team USA in the men's world. As I said, the women are playing right now against Switzerland. We're lucky enough to welcome once again to the show Tom Callahan. He's doffing his Utah Mammoth insider for now to make himself a Team USA Olympic hockey insider instead. Tom, how are you?
I'm great, OC. Thanks for having me back, man. I love the Olympics, and not just hockey. I just love the Winter Olympics.
Outside of hockey, what's the sport that catches your interest most?
It is curling is my 1A. But man, there's something crazy about rocketing down an icy track at 80 miles an hour that I love about bobsled and luge and skeleton.
Yeah, it's such a weirdly specific but awesome event. When every Olympic cycle, winter and summer, I always look like, man, all of these things should be more popular. And then, of course, like everyone else, 3 weeks after the games are over, I don't think about them again until the next Olympics rolls around. But I've always been a big fan of bobsled, maybe going back to the Cool Runnings movie release days. Who knows?
Hey, that was a great movie. I watched that when I was younger, too, and I absolutely loved it. So 100% I can get on board with that. All
right, so Team USA opens this Olympic tournament with Latvia. What do you need to see in this matchup?
Well, for Team USA, I think they actually have a really nice group that should give them the opportunity to tune themselves up, get through, and get sharp. And get ready for the medal round. And really, for me, for Team USA, it is about the medal round. And that's why the cool thing is here, you're going to see them play probably everybody at some point in the preliminaries. And it is getting guys ready to go. And unfortunately for Mammoth fans, it looks like Clayton Keller might be a scratch for the first game, depending on how lines were at practice today, according to what I saw posted online. But I imagine he's going to work himself in, and this team really, it is about getting sharp. I don't think there's anybody in that group that challenges them. I think they do come out on top without much of a problem, and they just have to make sure that it's not too easy and that they are firing on all cylinders for the medal round.
So no surprise there that Latvia is not exactly a favorite, but when we talk about the real contenders, right? I've asked you this question about the NHL itself. In this Olympic cycle, which countries are going to be, contending for at least a place on the podium?
So I look at it as USA, Canada, Sweden, Finland are kind of the big four heading in, with abilities for other countries to make surprise runs, but that wouldn't be shocking. For instance, I like Germany, and they are in the U.S. group. I think the Germans, while not deep, have pretty good star power, led by Leon Draisaitl and, of course, J.J. Peterka on Team Germany. They have scoring. They have decent goaltending. The Germans could surprise a couple of teams and catch them napping. Czechia is another one. And, it's great. All this ties in, right, for me to talk about Mammoth guys. But, Karel Vejmelka is on Czechia. And I think they have better goaltending there than Canada. And those two teams are in the same group together. So Canada really better watch itself. I think they're deeper. Czechia is older, more veteran. They have a lot of former NHL players on that team in addition to their current NHLers. So that's a talented team as well. Now, at the end of the day, I go back to the big four, I think, for the medal round. And really, Canada feels like the team to beat if the goaltending is on. I like Team USA's goaltending the best of anyone in the tournament. So I really like where they're at. And then Sweden and Finland are always crazy competitive. And Sweden especially, I think, is going to be tough to beat. So maybe those are my three medalists. I just don't know where they're coming out.
Hellebuck, Swayman, Ottinger are the goal minders for the net minders for Team USA. How different will the management process be for the Olympics versus, if you put those three guys on an NHL roster, obviously, we see how that rotation usually goes in the NHL, but it's effectively an all-star lineup. So will you see more of the, for lack of a better term, backups in the Olympics?
I don't think so because it is such a short tournament. I think you have an established starter who will probably get two of your three pool games. And in the round robin, you probably want to get whoever you consider your number two some work. But no, you want your starter going to make sure that they are solid. Now, if something happens and they have a bad couple of games, you might, change your schedule around or put somebody else in there. We've seen that happen. But that is the mystery, the secret sauce, right? In an Olympic tournament, it is short, it is intense. You better have your guy in net absolutely going. And if he's not, you've got to have a short leash. And I hate that as a goaltender. I hate that. But, you really do have to put a guy in that gives you the best chance to win because once you get to the medal round, it's one and done. There is no tomorrow.
So who do you think the 1, 2, 3 is?
I think it'll be Hellebuck and then Ottinger, Swayman. For me personally, if I was going to pick, believe it or not, Jake Ottinger would be my starter. I like him the best out of all of them. Part of it is Hellebuck's having a bit of a down year, but so is Winnipeg. And that's tough. But I think based on the seniority of everything, Hellebuck is your starter. And it would be a slight to him to not be the starter if politics weren't a part of the messaging. And probably Swayman ends up getting a game here in the round robin. I would really like to see it be Ottinger, but I think Hellebuck is that number one guy. But look, if Connor Hellebuck is on and he's playing well and he's locked in, look out because he is one of the best goaltenders of this generation.
Does how these guys have performed in the past in Stanley Cup playoffs factor into the decision making when we're talking about this Olympic cycle?
I think it does. I think you have to take a player's body of work, which is why so many interesting choices had to be made by Billy Guerin and his staff in putting this team together. One of the big stats that keeps going around that people continue to talk about is 5 of the top 10 American-born scorers, current leading scorers in the NHL, are not on this team. So the U.S. made a conscious decision that they weren't just going to put together the most offensively dangerous team and the most all-star productive team. I think they made a conscious decision to put together a team that was a little tougher, a little more physical, and quite honestly, at the end of the day, OC, I think it is geared to beat Canada, specifically beat Canada, because that is they're the top drawer team coming into this, and they're the target. And they are tough. They are physical, but they also have a ton of scoring. They have great defense. Could be the goaltending is their weak point. I don't think it'll be bad, but it could be their weakest link in the chain. So there were a lot of interesting choices made that way in putting this team together. And I think even for a short tournament, they want grit. They want to be able to play physical. They want to take it to those other teams. And so, yeah, they made some interesting choices along the way here. But they still have Austin Matthews, right? I mean, they're still taking a bunch of guys that can put the puck in the net. They're still a pretty deep team, and it's nice to have the luxury of making those hard decisions.
Do you like that strategy? If that's the one to like, hey guys, we got to beat Canada. I mean, is that a smart plan? Because like you mentioned, obviously Canada is probably the lead horse in that race, but if you specifically prepare yourself to take on one opponent or to be able to beat one particular nation, and it doesn't end up being them in a gold medal match, are you going to regret that?
And that is the risk, isn't it? There's probably a couple personnel differences that I'd have thought, oh, maybe you go this way instead of that. But I don't mind it because a couple of things. Number one, the rink is not as big as a typical Olympic rink. Normally, an Olympic-size ice sheet is 100 feet wide. And believe me, we've all heard ad nauseum about the problems just getting this building open, let alone getting hockey played on it. But it's not as big as a traditional international size rink. It is much more of an NHL size rink. So I think styling your team for an NHL type of game, and I believe in the NHL that yes, a physical roster that also has skill wins in the playoffs. I think ultimately that is my dream build for a Stanley Cup run. I think in this particular case, given the circumstances, this is a good direction to build this team in. And I think it will show some pretty good results. Now, will they beat Canada? I don't 100% know the answer to that, but I can tell you no matter who they play, and Canada included, it is going to be a hard game to win, physically as well as mentally.
Tom Callahan, our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking a little Olympic hockey, previewing at least. No, men's hockey does not start for a couple more days. The women in action right now leading Switzerland after the end of the first period, 1-0. You mentioned Keller could potentially be a healthy scratch. And obviously, Mammoth fans are hoping that he gets a lot of run in this Olympic tournament and that we can see him score some goals and whatnot. We're going to have to let it play out, see how it goes. I guess, what is the best version of this tournament for Clayton Keller? He's unlikely to be the primary go-to, the big star, the top line guy on this particular lineup, but I also don't want to see him, be a healthy scratch multiple times or be, a token add to this particular roster. What's an ideal outcome for Keller specifically in this tournament?
For Clayton Keller, what I want to see is him kind of regain his scoring touch and his confidence out there. I think, let's be honest, he's had a rough year, and it's been a difficult season for him. He's dealt with a lot personally, and I know that's I wouldn't wish that stuff on anybody. I would like for him to just regain his focus and his sharpness and maybe his love and his joy of coming to the rink every day. And I'm not saying he doesn't have that now, but just there's something to it when you have all those outside factors. Everybody says, well, leave it at the door, you're at the rink now, blah, blah, blah. And some guys can do that. Some guys, that's difficult. I really would love to see him rediscover that in his game, and we'll see it on the ice. I think he started to break through a little bit here towards the Olympic break. I would like to see him get some good solid ice time. I'd like to see him get some special teams time out there as well. And you know what? Maybe he does develop some more leadership qualities, being around, again, the best players in the world, for and against you. I mean, this is a best-on-best tournament, and it's awesome. It's a lot of fun to watch, but the level will not be higher anywhere else. And that includes the Stanley Cup playoffs, in my opinion. I think there is a lot that you can learn and a lot that you can grow from. And I hope he is playing those games. I hope he makes it a hard decision for them, especially after his World Championship run last year, captaining that team. I think that's, important for his game, his confidence, and then bringing that energy and enthusiasm back to the Utah Mammoth here in their stretch run through March and April.
You mentioned Austin Matthews as a guy you can rely on for some scoring. Aside from your captain, and I guess I'll take away your associate, your alternate captain as well, the most important player not in the net for this Utah, or not Utah, for this Team USA? Who do you think that is?
This is something I think a lot of people focus on the forwards, which I understand. I totally get that. But I think that we've got to look at the defense here, because I think there's going to need to be scoring from the blue line for this Team USA. And that's why, when you get injuries and you get guys knocked out, that's what hurts. Charlie McAvoy, thankfully, looks like he's going to be okay. He actually got injured in that game right before the break and then came back in that game. So I was, all right, thankfully. But Zach Werenski is an older guy who's having a good season for Columbus. He's putting pucks in the net. He's adding scoring from the back end. I look to see what he's going to bring. Noah Hannafin's another older guy or a veteran guy, I should say. I don't want to make him sound like he's 100 years old. But to me, they're all kids, OC. They're all kids. But I think that's going to be the important part for this team, is that they really do have to find some goals from the back end, because up front, Tage Thompson can take over and just absolutely dominate. I mean, that's the guy that, holy cow, he can put the puck on the net when he's on a tear. He can shoot from anywhere. He's just absolutely deadly. The Kachuk brothers can just change an entire game all by themselves and absolutely dominate. But one other guy, I'll give you one other forward, and it's not Jack Eichel, but believe it or not, because of the way he's been playing coming into the break, Jake Gensel. I think Jake Gensel from Tampa Bay can be an absolute game breaker in the Olympics.
Which NHL team was happiest to have this Olympic break, and which is like, oh no, we're on a roll here. Don't make the break now.
I think Utah wishes there was no break, quite honestly. That's a tough one for them. Probably the Buffalo Sabres, because of the way they had started to play heading into the break as well. There are the teams that are hurt and banged up. The Florida Panthers love this break. Because hopefully, and you never know when, guys are going to be able to come back, but they want to get healthy. Tampa Bay was playing lights out heading into the break. They probably didn't want it. Carolina. You know who else? The Pittsburgh Penguins. This is a Penguins team that for years we've been saying they're too old. They need to get rid of Malkin and Letang and Crosby and just start it over. They won 7 of 10 and points in 9 of 10 going into the break. So, yeah, they absolutely did not want the break. You know who loves the break? Colorado. They had been sliding lately and coming back down to earth a little bit. They had not had the best stretch here right before the Olympic break. So unfortunately, I think the Avalanche are very excited to have some time off.
Is there a game after this break? We're going to talk before we get here, but is there a game that right now is on your radar for the Utah Mammoth to, when you say, all right, that's the one where we're going to figure out whether this break was good or bad for the team?
I think you're going to find out fairly quickly, because they go on, they come home, they play Chicago March 1st, and they've got that little mini 3-game homestand. It's the Avalanche, the Wild, and then Chicago. That is a real tough way to restart things, but the blessing and the curse is that both teams are restarting things. So they play the Avalanche well all season. I think they're going to play the Avalanche well again. Minnesota is a game that if you want to buy tickets for one of those 3 games, I would tell you to buy tickets for the game on the 27th against Minnesota, because I think that is your biggest litmus test in there. Now, here's a secondary answer to that, is that Sunday, March 1st game against Chicago, they better win. That is a must-win game for me because of where Chicago is in the standings, because of where Utah is. And they then go on a 5-game Eastern road swing. That ends by looping back through Chicago and again Minnesota. That's a really, really tough stretch. I want to see them come out of that little homestand with 2 out of 3. But the most important game in there, to me, is Minnesota.
Were there any guys on this Mammoth roster that you're like, he's going to really benefit from the rest? Maybe somebody who's a little banged up or been playing through some stuff and obviously is not part of his Olympic team?
Well, hopefully Logan Cooley. Man, we are all rooting for Cooley to get well soon. I hope he is going to find the fountain of youth or some healing spring somewhere and hang out in there. You know who always plays so hard and is always getting banged up and probably really does need the rest is Sean Durzi. Jersey plays so hard. He plays a very physical brand. He blocks shots. He plays in all situations. I'm pretty sure he will benefit greatly from the rest, and he's a very important part of this defensive core. So I think that'll be a big thing for him. And just some of the other guys, I would really like to see Alex Kerfoot get healthy again. He hasn't been for the most part of this year. I hope that's not his body's starting to break down on him, but I really think Kerfoot can benefit, because if they get Kerfoot and Cooley back and Jersey is back as close to 100% as he can get, that makes them a much better team. That's like making a couple of trades at the deadline and acquiring some really key pieces. So my fingers are crossed for those three guys that this is a very healing couple of weeks.
Tom, enjoy the women's hockey that's on today, and we will probably chat with you after the men have already played a time or two. So appreciate your expertise and your time as always. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, and go Team USA.
Tom Callahan, Utah Mammoth insider, who for now is going to be our hockey insider, one of our hockey insiders and specialists for Team USA hockey. Latvia is the first opponent for Team USA in this Olympic tournament. That game will be played in a couple of days at 1:10 p.m. Mountain Time. That's when your puck is going to drop. Lots left to get to. The Super Bowl on the weekend, the lackluster, or was it exactly what you needed? I also have a poll question about which young quarterback is going to play in the most Super Bowls during his career. We'll get there. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. I'm totally remiss. I forgot. We have to do an Olympic curling report with our curling expert, James Peterson. Spoiler alert for those of you who don't want to know about Olympic results when they're on live because you only want to watch the prime time after work. Fine.
With the games happening in Europe, Italy, I believe, is 6 to 8 hours ahead of us, which means that all it's prime time over there when we're on the show here. So, I mean, that's your warning that we might spoil some things before you're able to watch at home when you watch prime time in Milan. But yes, the curling update brought to you by these Olympic updates, by the way, our Olympics coverage, I should say Winter Games coverage, is brought to you by Mountain Home Services. So shout out to those guys. Visit them online.
Love it.
Check them out. The curling update, mixed doubles. We had both the final round robin games and the semifinal games today. And Team USA faced the same team both times, OC. They faced the home nation, Italy, who also happened to be the defending gold medalists. So 2 tough matches to end the round robin round, which is the preliminary round. They fall to Italy in the round robin, 7-6. Heartbreaking loss there. To round out those matches or those games, Norway beat Korea 8-5, and Czechia beat Estonia 8-4. I just have to mention, a little disappointed Estonia's not better at curling, considering you play curling with stones. OC.
Oh, James, come on. That's... wah, wah.
Okay, moving on to the semifinal matches. Sweden blew out Great Britain 9-3, and then the one we were all waiting for, the rematch from earlier in the day. USA, Italy, the crowd's overwhelmingly against Team USA in Cortina d'Ampezzo. They're down 4-2 about midway through. They take a 2-point lead, 7-5. Relinquish the lead. They're down 8-7 going into the final end. 1 stone left.
The cardiac kids here.
The one stone left. They get into this. They get into the house. That's the scoring zone there. The circles there. You got that you're aiming for, and they knock one of the Italian stones out of it. So that's a 2-point swing right there. OC. That's how much they needed to win the game. They win 9-8 on that last. On that last end, the last stone of the game of the match. I keep saying match, but apparently game is the term in curling. But match probably also works too.
Yeah, they're probably interchangeable. You hope.
The first ever gold medal game for Team USA in mixed doubles curling coming up tomorrow, 10 a.m. on Peacock. Right before we go on the air, we're gonna have, and I'm sure at the start of the show, we're gonna have the end of the gold medal game. So shout out to Team USA, and there's your curling update. Again, it's just on Peacock. Today it was on USA. That's a little disappointing. Like give us a bigger like traditional TV platform for the gold medal game. First ever one. Maybe they'll change that. I have to say the Twitter account that I was scrolling through some stuff looking for updates. They did the "Do you believe in miracles" in all caps, homage to Miracle on Ice. I'm not sure this is quite that level.
It might be. I mean,
it's Miracle on Ice 2, maybe. Okay,
if you're in curling, then yeah, okay.
It's just, I mean, the Cold War between mixed doubles curling between the USA and the Italian team.
Yeah, there's a lot of
really fierce.
It's heavy.
All right. It's fierce. It's arguably as fierce as Team USA men's hockey versus the Soviets in 1980, Lake Placid, arguably.
So we started the show today kind of complaining about the Super Bowl. Complaining is the wrong way to do it and the wrong way to put it, but to me it was an interesting game for how dispassionate it was. You got a bunch of field goals, defensive battle. There were not, in my opinion, there were not moments in this game where you're just like, oh, it all comes down to this moment necessarily. Not until you got late and you saw that the Patriots were entering their desperation situations and you knew they had to convert on some things and ultimately were not able to. Almost got a turnover that would have kept them within striking distance, but unfortunately for any New England fan out there, you're a New England fan, and more unfortunately, you lost the Super Bowl.
As I'm watching the game, I wanted a good game, so I was oddly kind of pulling for New England for most of that game to try to make it competitive, right?
Yeah.
But every time the Mike Tirico or Chris Collinsworth would bring up just how bad they've been, I mean, I had to say out loud, I don't hate hearing that though. Like as much as I also don't like the Seahawks, it's nice to hear the Patriots are sucking right now.
The question I have for a lot of people is, do you think that the Patriots will be back there inevitably? Are you confident in the dynastic abilities of a Patriots team that's still relatively young, obviously has who they think is their franchise quarterback? They need to build along the offensive line. Nobody has ever been sacked as much in the playoffs as Drake May was sacked over the course of their 4 games on the way to the Super Bowl. Now, they had to play 4 instead of 3 like the Seattle Seahawks did, but when you're giving up 5 sacks a game through the playoffs, it's a minor miracle that you actually made it to the Super Bowl. And obviously, Drake May getting hit as often as he did. They hit him 11 times. Apparently 7 different Seahawks players hit Drake May. And obviously, some of the biggest plays of the game were him going down, getting sacked. Now, he's got a head start on everyone else in this question because he's already appeared in 1 Super Bowl, but these are his same age contemporaries effectively in the NFL. Who will play the greatest number of Super Bowls before their career is over? Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bo Nix, or Jaden Daniels? Right now, Drake May is holding a slight edge on Bo Nix. 42% of you think that he will play in the greatest number of Super Bowls. Next up, no surprise, is Bo Nix. 36% of people think it'll be him. Caleb Williams at 18%, and Jaden Daniels, boy, did they have a sophomore slump of a year. Not a lot of trust in that organization either. But the question remains, who of those 4 players do you think gets to be in the most Super Bowls? And honestly, it might be one, right? I think most of us thought with how Joe Burrow got to the Super Bowl in his 2nd year, a lot of us were like, oh, yeah, Joe Burrow is going to be in that conversation all the time. Not the case.
Might end the Chiefs dynasty. Yeah, that didn't.
Right? I mean, assuming multiple Super Bowls for any of these guys is maybe the wrong thing to do, probably the wrong thing to do. But the question is there, and I want you to answer it. Of that class of quarterback, those young guys, those 24 and younger type quarterbacks, with Drake May already having the head start because he's played in 1, do you think Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, or Jaden Daniels ends up playing in more than Drake May?
Well, all from the same draft class, by the way.
Correct.
Everyone you put on that poll. Yeah, it's hard not to say Drake May for a couple of reasons. One, it's recency bias. We just saw it happen, and they're a young team, and I think there's a lot of respect for Mike Vrabel out there as well. His ability to get this team, coach this team up, get them back to the Super Bowl soon. But the other reason is he finished 2nd in MVP voting by the closest margin, one of the closest margins ever. The closest margin since we last had a co-MVP, Peyton Manning, Steve McNair, right? 20-something years ago. So as bad as he looked Sunday, and you got to give the Seahawks defense a ton of credit for that. You got to put a lot of blame on the offensive line for that. It's not all on Drake May being bad, but he also wasn't good. He played he was a lot of people thought he was the best quarterback in the league this year. That's how he played, right? So there's a couple reasons why it's hard not to say Drake May, but as I think hard on this, I think that we've seen enough from Caleb Williams, particularly this year, that if you believed in his potential at USC, like I did, I feel like there's still every reason to believe that he's going to be that guy that gets the Bears, or maybe changes teams and gets to a Super Bowl.
It's a flawed question in a lot of ways because it individualizes what is massively team-oriented. When I say, will it be Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels? Like, Jaden Daniels might be the best of all of them, but you don't trust his organization. You don't believe that ownership, management, coaching there is going to get him back. I think that with Drake May, he's got a really solid coach. He's got an organization that has a history of Super Bowl caliber success, and maybe he doesn't go on a run and win a bunch of them, but just being in the conversation, that's what the question is about. How many is he going to play in, right? If I would have asked you at the beginning of the year whether Sam Darnold was going to be the Super Bowl winning quarterback, you would have been like, no, you moron, because when you put the quarterback's name on it, it becomes a question about the individual. It becomes a question about the quarterback. But if I had said, are the Seahawks capable of winning a Super Bowl this year, your reaction would not have been quite so negative. You probably still wouldn't have been like, yeah, of course they can. But it would have been, you would have been thinking about, well, coaching, defense, franchise level stuff. And that's why this quarterback conversation and the quarterback Super Bowl wins as a quarterback stat thing can get really dicey and can be flawed, because Sam Darnold, right or wrong, is now going to go down in the annals of NFL history as a Super Bowl winning quarterback when Dan Marino doesn't. Like, you're going to and it doesn't, no one's going to say Sam Darnold is better than Dan Marino because of it, but you can't be so reductive that you just say, well, Super Bowl wins are a quarterback stat. And I'm impressed with Sam Darnold's resilience. His resilience is the story. His freak talent is not. His ability is not. His elevation of his team on a consistent week-to-week basis is not. Sam Darnold, maybe the best thing that Sam Darnold has is his full understanding of himself. It was great to hear a lot of his interviews leading up to the Super Bowl. Do you play with a chip on your shoulder? Are you mad about all these teams that turned you away? And he's like, no, that does not serve me. Now, there are some players who do need that, and they do like that. They want to feel like an injustice has been done. They want to feel wronged by the system. You didn't believe in me. This is on you. Screw you. I'm going to prove you wrong. That's not him. And he knows that about himself. And I think that if we got him with the truth serum and you put him in front of the detective lights, he'd be like, yeah, dude, I just knew that to win this game, I had to not screw it up for my team. So I threw a bunch of check down passes. I threw the ball away instead of trying to force it into windows. When I believed I could make the throw, I made the throw, which he deserves credit for. He gets credit for those things. But I was not going to do what Drake May had to do in this game. If the Patriots were going to win, Drake May had to will them to a win. He had to play them to a win. He had to use his legs against that pass rush, and he had to use his arm, and he had to have an outstanding day for the Patriots to win. The only way that Seattle was going to lose this Super Bowl was for Sam Darnold to have a bad day. So Sam Darnold, because he's an intelligent guy, I think made a decision over the last 2 weeks and said, I'm just going to not have a bad day. And I think his coaching staff with the play calling was just like, we're just going to make sure Sam does not have a bad day. And if we get into a situation where Sam's got to make the plays, he's got to use his arm and his athleticism because he has some, and he's got to be the difference between us and a Super Bowl victory. Well, the way he played in the NFC Championship game makes me feel like maybe he can do that. But the highest percentage move here is to just make sure he doesn't have a bad day. And that's why Sam Darnold, you look at his stats, and they're totally pedestrian. They're totally unimpressive. But the stat that matters to him and to the city of Seattle and to the organization is he is 1-0 in Super Bowl appearances. Sam bleepin' Darnold. Drake May might be that guy who gets there, can't win it. Might be that guy who plays incredibly well, but doesn't have the offensive line to support his success. If you're New England, I think that is an organization with enough history, and Mike Vrabel played with enough really good offensive linemen to know that, like, that's what we need to build next. We have our franchise quarterback. Protect him. That could be a really, really big problem for the rest of the league if if Drake May gets a great offensive line. But right now, he's got a bad one. The Patriots' offensive line is like 3 pressures better than the Chargers' offensive line. And they are embarrassing. Both of those teams need to put all their draft capital into offensive line. Everyone else does this thing where they play this sweepstakes game. Man, we got to get the right quarterback. We got to get the right quarterback. We got to get the right quarterback. You have the right quarterback. Now support the right quarterback. The Bears have the right quarterback. Support the right quarterback.
And they did improve their line drastically, and the Bears had an incredible season.
Drastically.
I mean,
right?
Caleb Williams still had some iffy moments, and you hope you bank on that potential, like I was saying before, and you bank on the potential of the offensive mind of Ben Johnson, and you can correct that kind of stuff.
Bo Nix was right there. The Broncos were right there. Bo Nix needs weapons. Yeah. You need
someone other than Cortland Sutton.
You have to find offensive weapons to fill in around. You've got the right quarterback. You got a pretty decent offensive line. You've got an unbelievable defensive line, right? You've got to give some offensive weapons. Like, I know that I'm boiling it down to this elementary level, but sometimes teams overthink themselves. And if you've got the thing that everyone else in the NFL is chasing, a franchise quarterback, it should be relatively easy to figure out the rest. That is the hardest thing.
You mentioned Joe Burrow earlier and how early in his career he led the Bengals of all franchises to the Super Bowl. And that Super Bowl season, it seemed like what they did in the draft that year, it seemed like they proved that was the right move, drafting Jamar Chase instead of drafting Penei Sewell. When your number 1 overall pick the year before blew out his knee because he got sacked too much, right?
Yeah.
Because the line couldn't protect him. He then got just the snot knocked out of him all postseason. You saw the stat. Everyone watching yesterday saw the stat that kept coming on the screen. The record for most times being sacked. Joe Burrow, that Super Bowl run was the guy who held that record. Drake May tied it, right? I don't think he ended up surpassing it last night. It worked out that season, but we've seen, and it worked out well this season after that too when they got back to the AFC Championship game, but we've seen since then they probably should have just went ahead and drafted Penei Sewell. As great as a combination Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were in college and have shown to be in their early years in the NFL, Joe Burrow can't stay on the field. So you're absolutely right on once you have the quarterback, and the Bengals should have felt really good even though they lost him for the season early on in the season, his rookie year. We feel really good about Joe Burrow. You have a chance to draft a guy like Penei Sewell at the top of the draft. Take the O-lineman, protect that quarterback that you think is awesome. Patriots should do the same thing this year.
All right, we're actually going to he did break the record this year. I'm not going to tell you the number cuz that's going to be our trivia question next. But Drake May got sacked more than anyone in an NFL postseason ever has. I know that great offensive linemen don't grow on trees, but if you're New England, you should at least have a good idea of the first thing you need to fix.
Caleb Lomu, end of the draft, maybe?
I want him to go to the Niners.
Yeah, I'd prefer that too, but good one to pick if he's there, New England.
All right, we'll do a little crosstalk and some trivia next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, time for a little crosstalk and some topical trivia coming your way. 2 tickets to Stained October 7th at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Stained coming to town. We were just talking about this. Drake May got sacked more in the postseason than any quarterback ever has. How many times was he sacked in the playoffs? On the way to a Super Bowl appearance and eventual loss. 877-353-0700. Crosstalk brought to you by our friends at Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. The Drive with Spence Checketts is coming up next. Right now, it's the Sean O'Connell Show for another 3 minutes or so. Hey, Spence.
Welcome home, Sean. Good to
Thank
see you, buddy.
Thank you.
Did you enjoy the Super Bowl at all?
It was underwhelming.
It was.
And I didn't want to see the Seattle Seahawks win as a Niners fan,
That's what I
especially
figured,
at my home stadium.
Mhm.
But, it was – the commercials were bleh.
Mm-hmm.
The game itself was bleh.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I made the analogy, for me, the Super Bowl it's a holiday. It's an American sports holiday.
Yep.
And this was the Christmas that you got a pair of wool socks.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, well, it's still Christmas, but dang.
Yeah.
That kind of sucked.
Yeah, it was I think in 10 years when we're doing like, hey, worst Super Bowl of recent memory, this will be on the list. Like, even in the second half when they opened it up a little bit, it was more or less over. I don't feel like Seattle even broke a sweat. Disappointing game overall. Right now, like if I asked you, the Patriots weren't even, I don't know. I don't think they're the third or fourth best team in their own conference. I think they absolutely benefited with some advantageous situations with injuries, with conditions. The Bills certainly had their warts. I think Denver with Bo Nix probably goes. But all the questions about whether or not, and look, they just played 5 of the 6 best defenses in the NFL. That has something to do with it. But there are a lot of very smart football people that are like, no, they've got a lot of issues on offense. And you were pointing out their O-line when I was driving in. I just felt like it was pretty apparent early on that Seattle was like a much better football team.
Well, and Seattle gets credit because they are a complete team rather than being a star-driven team, right? JSN is a star. Sam Darnold is not. Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP, he's not really a star running back. You don't have a star tight end. You don't have even big star offensive linemen if they can be stars. You know what I mean? Defensively, you have a bunch of really well-respected dudes, but nobody that any other team's trying to build a franchise around. And instead of being, $50 million deep into one particular player, they spread it across the board, and it's a really nice product that won them a Super Bowl. So
they've got Darnold for 2 more years on a pretty team-friendly deal. I read today they have the 5th or 6th most cap space this offseason. Their head coach is 38. Like, they might be good for a long, long time. And look, we always do this, the prisoner of the moment thing, the team that just won. It's like, all right, how long can they pull this off? Such a hard thing to do year in and year out. But yeah, there was not a whole lot of intrigue. I mean, here's how exciting the game was. I had like 5 or 6 friends over to the house to watch, and we just started debating, like, is there ever a time where you give the kicker the Super Bowl MVP? And I ultimately just came to the answer, like, no, because at one point Myers had all the points. That was like Harrison Butker a couple of years ago. But is there ever a scenario that would unfold where a kicker would win MVP of the Super Bowl?
If it's a 3-0 game in a snowstorm and they hit the game-winning kick, like, to beat the buzzer, yes.
But I still think you would, like, is there a DN that had 2.5 sacks?
Well, that's honestly, like, all respect. I've liked Kenneth Walker since college. Like, he's a good player.
He is. He's very good.
One year he gave me a lot of fantasy points. But in any case, the defense and the pass rush in particular for the Seahawks was the MVP of this game. And I get it. You want to give it to a player, and you don't want to do this like generalities. Well, the whole defense is the MVP. But that was the real answer to that question.
Yeah.
Your front four was the MVP. They couldn't do anything, and they didn't have to do anything fancy. Seattle didn't have to do anything fancy defensively because the front four was winning on every down.
Yeah.
Passing downs, they were getting pressure or sacks. When Drake May tried to use his athleticism and run, it was like, nope, there's 3 of us here, dude, and we're all big and fast.
Yeah.
So you got to give it to one player, I guess, or at least 2. You couldn't give it to 4+. But I guess congrats to Kenneth Walker. 135 yards is a big deal in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I thought maybe you look at the Witherspoon kid who had a couple sacks and that strip sack that led to the scoop and score. But it was a very underwhelming end to an otherwise phenomenal NFL season, and now we say goodbye to football for 7 months. But we got spring ball coming up in a little bit, so we'll be able to at least dig into that.
Yeah. And, college hoops firing up. We got a big Big 12 matchup tonight, Arizona, Kansas.
Your boy was in Provo on Saturday night for a little BYU Houston.
They let you in?
Don't look at me like that. My old man came in.
Well, you hold on. You don't even like going south of 33rd.
Yes, well documented. Olympus Cove.
All the way down to Provo?
Olympus Cove is Orem to me. You're right. Old man rolled into town. You know how it is, Sean. We're getting older. We need to spend time with our parents when we can.
Okay.
My dad played basketball at BYU. He's an alum. And he said, hey, I got 4 tickets to the game tonight. I'm in town. Shout out Brian Santiago. AD hooked us up. Okay. Your boy was on the second row. Little VIP dinner. And hold on a second.
There's got to be some sort of conflict of interest here.
Oh, I'm not even close to done. Okay, hold on a second. VIP pregame meal. My guy, Danny Ainge. My guy, Gifford Nielsen.
Okay.
What's up? Ribs, chicken, creamery vanilla ice cream. Lovely. And to top it off, flavored Fresca. That's what your boy did on Saturday night.
Grapefruit.
It was a Fresca with some sort of cherry. It's a very interesting
black
setup.
Cherry
Okay,
Fresca.
so the BYU athletic department has built a brand new annex next to the Marriott Center. Okay, that's where you go for the pregame meal. They've got buffet, and then they've got creamery, and then they've got swig, and then they've got a candy bar, dude, where you can get like Skittles and M&Ms. My little 10-year-old nephew. We lost him. Like, where's Teddy? We look over. He's got like 5 bags of candy.
Of course, that's awesome.
That is it. Look, it is so on brand.
All the Utah vices that you're allowed. Right
yeah,
there.
and look, when in Rome, Sean, little vanilla, little chocolate syrup, little Skittles, little Reese's on top.
Okay,
little
why
flavored Fresca, and then I watched Kelvin Sampson run circles around Kevin Young. We're going to talk about it. I don't think they're very good. Now, Utah rebuild. Struggling.
Yeah.
But BYU, man, I'm telling you, the team last year, I think it's better than the team this year. They play a much more complete team style.
Yeah, we'll get into March, and there's going to be a very serious ROI discussion.
Yep. I'm sorry for not bringing you back a flavored soda, though. Next time when I'm in Provo, I'm going to text you which one you want. It's on me.
I'm sorry for not bringing you back a Camel.
Wait, did you have a baklava shake?
No.
Oh. Just feel like every time you leave, you have a shake.
Although the Emirates Lounge at the Dubai airport has a baklava section, like a whole little baklava dessert table.
Did you partake?
Yeah.
That a guy.
Your boy puts in some calorie work there.
That a guy. Love hearing that.
All right. Stay tuned for the drive. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. The correct answer, by the way, on our trivia question for 2 Stain tickets, 21 times he was sacked in a 4-game postseason. Ouch. Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.